Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Players Take episode 118. I'm your host, Justin and joined by my co-host. We hope he doesn't lose power, Montrell Rice.
Hey, yeah, I lost power, so that's funny.
Yeah,
I'll tell y'all a story.
He lost power right before we were about to start recording. Well, okay, let me be honest here for a second. I got home. We're recording late tonight. Montrell needed to record like a little later than usual, and that's fine. So I got home and I just decided to lay down because I was tired from my work day, and I ended up falling asleep. And the only reason I woke up was because Montrell called me to tell me that his power went out. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Here I am, groggy as fuck, and I'm like, what is happening? What? Your power went out? Fuck, man. So hopefully we can get through this episode without him losing his power again. But we'll see. I mean,
yeah, it was the funniest thing. I came home, I worked overtime, and then I came home and everything was working. Like the power's been on all day.
Mm-hmm.
I power up my computer rather. Text Justin like, hey, about to power everything up and hop on. And then as soon as I send the invite to him, my power went out. And I was like, what the fuck? And I went outside, all the neighbors were standing outside too.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple minutes, like 10 minutes later, I think power came back on. So I don't know if it was like a transformer went down temporarily or something like that, but yeah.
Or somebody flipped a fucking switch or something and realized their mistake.
Were you up north around like 04?
Yeah.
I don't know if this helping. So did you guys get affected by that blackout? You remember it was a huge blackout that hit like the Midwest and parts of the Northeast.
No,
and
I don't
lasted
think so.
For like, okay, yeah. That's funny because that happened. It hit like everyone's powered out. Like all of Michigan, all of Ohio, all of like all the Midwest states. And then New York was out as well.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was a squirrel got inside like the power plant and chewed on something and blew up everything. And that was the funniest shit ever. And everyone was without power for like 4 days. It was kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm. Man.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny. That I don't like. I almost want to like. I wish we could get like the perspective of that squirrel's life up until the end. The last like I don't know 3-4 hours. Just see kind of what he was doing. What was he trying to do? Like where was he? Why was he in there? What did he think was in there? Or she? What did they think was in there? And then what led them to fucking blow up a. It's like a covert mission, dude. It's funny. Yeah, life's weird sometimes, man. Well, Montrell, besides your power going out, how are you doing this week?
Everything, all my furniture is settled, and it was a really stressful week last week, but this week this week has actually been, I don't know about you, but for me, this week has been going by slow as fuck.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, bro.
Yeah, I'm with you. Last 2 weeks for me have been really, really stressful at my job. I just have a lot piled on my plate there, and it's like I'm just trying to get through every day I can at a time. It's like so we're almost to the weekend, and I think next week it'll clear up a little bit, thankfully, or at least I'm hoping it will. But we got some video games to talk about, Montreal.
Yes, sir.
So for those of you who haven't listened before, this is our weekly show where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to video games. We post at 6 a.m. Central Time on Fridays on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and your favorite podcast app of choice. Also, please send us questions. We've been getting questions weekly for the last few weeks, and we love this.
We appreciate it.
We really appreciate this, guys. It's great. This is a great way to kind of flesh out the show. It's not just me and Montrell obviously we're answering the questions, so we are talking about them, yes, but we're interacting with you guys. We're kind of getting some topics in here that we wouldn't normally talk about on the show, which has been great. This has really been awesome. So please send those to theplayerstake01@gmail.com, or you can tag us on Twitter at theplayerstake. Please tag that Twitter handle. That's how we track the questions. Don't tag me or Montrell individually. That will make it less likely that we'll see your question and get it on the show. But So yeah, please send it to the podcast handle at the Players Take.
Yeah,
So
because we both can get notifications for it. So
yes, exactly. Let's get started, Montreal. There's not a ton of news to talk about this week, or at least not a ton that we want to talk about per se. But there is one big thing, Mass Effect, which we'll be getting into. But let's start like we always do with what we've been playing, Montreal. Let's talk about everything outside of Mass Effect that we've been playing, and then we'll talk about Mass Effect. That'll probably be a very large discussion. I'll get started this week. I don't
okay.
have much to say. I really have only mostly been playing Mass Effect. The other games I was playing last week, I do want to get back to. I just haven't had time really to play anything else. I have been playing Neo 2 still. Getting deeper in that, and it is really funny how much harder the third difficulty is compared to the first two post game difficulties. It's a huge jump, man, and it's actually starting to frustrate me again. Like the game is like got really hard all of a sudden. There's a particular side boss who is a Onmyo mage who uses a Odachi as his weapon, and he just has these moves that no one else in the game can use, including the player. And he's so full of shit. He's just so full of shit. He has so much hyper armor. He uses all these buffs and shit on himself. He's a fucking asshole, you know? And he just, all of a sudden, you're staggering him. And then all of a sudden, he's not being staggered anymore. And he's in the middle of doing a burst attack on you that you can't fucking block, you know? Like, he pisses me off. I fought him like probably 15 times earlier this week trying to kill him. And, got my ass kicked. I got him down to probably less than 3% HP twice, and he killed me with a burst attack when I was at full HP, and I wanted to throw my controller out the window. I was so fucking pissed, dude. So, you know, if you're looking for a hard game, Neo is that game, especially when you get deep into it, very deep into it, like the higher difficulties. But it's still fun. Don't get me wrong, it's still fun. I am under leveled for the stuff I'm doing too, so that's part of my problem. You know, I need to kind of just take a step back, do some grinding. You know, it's just not something I've done a lot in this game. So, also still playing Final Fantasy Tactics on Vita. I haven't gotten much further in it. I'm kind of in a grinding phase in that game as well right now. So, not much to say there. Montreal, what have you been playing?
Uh, so I haven't touched Metal Gear 5 yet, or haven't been playing it since the Mass Effect came out. I did start Resident Evil 8, and then Mass Effect came out, and I stopped
Mm-hmm.
playing it.
Mm-hmm.
I do like it so far, the bits I did play, and my friend keeps ragging on me to play it, and I'm going to actually put down Mass Effect. After I beat Mass Effect 1,
Uh-huh.
I'm going to put it down, and then Resident Evil is only like 10 hours, and I'm going to finish Resident Evil this weekend, and then I'm
Okay.
going to play Mass Effect 2. So my goal is to beat Mass Effect 1 by tomorrow, if possible, and then I'm going to try to beat
Okay.
Resident Evil 8 rather
Man.
by Sunday.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
I am playing Mass Effect 1 on Insanity though, so it is going to take a little bit.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're doing that, dude. Are you going for like the full platinum run,
So
or
what's interesting, I don't know if it's so they have it separated. Um,
yes, they do.
so they have the legendary, they have the legendary edition platinum,
Yep.
and then each game has its own platinum. So
Well,
you can get four
so
platinums out of this, right?
no, I don't think this. I think there's 3 platinums, but the legendary edition has its own trophy list. It doesn't have a platinum in there. I don't think.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
I don't believe so. But yeah. So I do want to talk about that real quick because this is a cool thing they did on PlayStation that they didn't do on any other platform. And
Okay,
this
so that
this
makes
is the
sense.
first time we've ever seen a game do something like this, where you have a collection of games and each game has a platinum, which that's normal. That's happened
Yeah,
plenty
yeah.
of times. But we've never seen there be another list outside of the games that runs between all 3 games.
Yeah, so that's
Um,
interesting
yeah,
because my friend, she has it on Tiara, she has it on fucking Xbox.
yeah,
And she was telling me that they have achievements
yeah,
and all of their achievements are put together like that, if that makes any sense. So they have all their achievements. Each one gets 1,000 because you can get
yes.
1,000 each achievement. And then I think yeah, like you said, each one has, or the Mass Effect Legendary Edition has its own separate achievements.
Okay. Well, I heard there's a little bit of a controversy on Xbox because it only adds up to like 29.15 or something.
Really?
achievement points.
Okay.
It's not the full, like, not each game is not getting a full 1,000, which I think is frustrating some people. Now
Okay.
I don't know this for a fact. This is just something I saw online
Okay.
floating around, but um so yeah, but on PlayStation's is like like the way they did it on PlayStation's really fucking cool. I love what they did with it, frankly.
Yeah. Yep.
Because yeah, that having the different trophies running between the games for like kills and romances and stuff like that, and then the difficulty playthroughs. Um, I think it's a really nice thing. I'd actually love to see more games do stuff like this, especially obviously collections would be the most uh obvious ones to do this with. But I think it's a really cool thing they did. It's something, and it's funny because this actually applies to both the PS4 and PS5 version of the game, which means that developers have been able to do this since 2013 at the very earliest with PlayStation 4 launch. Like, so it's kind of odd that no one's done anything like this before that. But most of the industry doesn't really care about achievements and trophies. Like, developers don't put a lot of effort into it, which is unfortunate because I think they should. But it is interesting to see EA and BioWare do that, and I think
Yeah.
it's really cool.
Yeah. So I don't think I'm going to get the achievement because I played it on veteran
Yeah.
for like the first 10 or 20 minutes,
Hmm.
or maybe like the first hour, and I realized like this game is incredibly easy. And I put it on insanity.
Yeah.
For me, it's still fucking easy. Like I'm
Really?
like, yeah, this game is incredibly easy for
Huh.
me.
Okay.
Mass Effect 1 is rather. There are some parts like the Rachni I had some issues with, but besides that, like I pretty much know how to maneuver the battlefield and everything like that,
Hmm.
know the powers. And
Yeah.
um yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
some parts that are like bullshit. Like when you had to fight the VI on Earth, or not on Earth, but on the
Luna.
moon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Oh yeah.
yeah,
I'm sure that's annoying.
yeah, those fucking robots. But once
Yeah.
you learn how to, do crowd control and CC everybody, uh, especially with like you get Liara and you get fucking
Tally.
Rex.
Oh yeah, and
Well, yeah,
Rex. Yeah.
yeah. I was maneuvering I can know how to maneuver the battlefield like really easily now. It's I actually like the pause and go
Hmm.
aspect of it. A lot of people
Yeah.
don't like that, but I actually like it.
Well, it's interesting. You mentioned the difficulty. So yeah, when I played last year, I think I played on veteran, and I remember it being a lot harder on PC last year. I think they neutered this game really hard.
I was just
Mass
gonna
Effect
say that.
1 in particular. I don't know if I don't think they did much with 2 and 3. Because I finished 1 the other day and I'm playing 2 now. And 2 I'm
Mhm.
playing on the second hardest difficulty, like the one below Insanity.
Hardcore.
And it's hard, but it's not that hard, but it's hard. It's much harder than Mass Effect was on veteran. Like Mass Effect 1, like, dude, I was so powerful by the end of Mass Effect 1 that I wasn't even using cover. Like I just walked around and shot things until they died. Like there was no I would just stand there and let them hit me. I didn't like it
Yeah,
was
unfortunately, I can't do that on Insanity, but
okay.
yeah, I can
I will
still.
say I was playing a soldier, which I've never done before on Mass Effect, and I think I had close to 100% damage reduction
Oh,
by the end of the
yeah,
game.
you guys get
So you get heavy
advanced
armor.
shield. You get
Yeah,
yeah, heavy armor and
yeah.
advanced shielding. So yeah,
Yes, yes. So I had some really badass heavy armor that I think had like close to 80% damage reduction, and then I put a damage reduction mod on it too, which gave it an additional like 18%. So I don't know
okay,
how it worked, whether it was multiplicative or additive, but either way, it still was close to 85 to 90% damage reduction probably. And I
yeah.
was just things were tickling me by the end of the game. It was so stupid, man. It was like
So
so
okay, it's not just me then, because they had to neuter Insanity. So I
mhm,
tried to play Insanity on the original one, not
yeah.
recently, but last year during the height of the pandemic.
Mhm.
I played it on veteran because yeah, hardcore and Insanity mode. I remember on Mass Effect 1 was just fucking intense. It was too intense.
Absolute bullshit, yeah.
Uh Certain parts I couldn't get through at all. The particular part I remember playing on Insanity mode was Matriarch Venezia's fight,
Yep.
and the commandos had throw.
Yep.
So if you guys don't know, throw is incredibly powerful on fucking in
Mass
Mass
Effect
Effect
1.
1. It goes
So
like
OP.
It goes through shields, bro. It goes
Yeah.
through everything.
It knocks you down for like 5 seconds, dude. Like
Oh,
it's absolutely insane. And they would
so,
chain it on you. There was no
that's
like
exactly
diminishing returns.
that's
So
exactly what I was gonna get at. So
yeah.
in a Matriarch Benezia's fight, she has nothing. The first wave is nothing but Asari commandos,
Yep.
and they chain CC you with
hmm
throw. It's
hmm
impossible to get through. And I remember being so fucking frustrated. I had no idea how people did that game on
hmm
fucking insanity mode. But
Yeah.
now I think they tweaked the AI to where they can't just spam throw.
Yeah.
I think the AI is actually on cooldowns like we are, because they can't just
Yeah.
spam it.
Well, even if
Uh,
they are, they don't use it as much. Because, dude, I ran into a bunch of biotics, and there was only one time in the entire game that I can remember where I kind of got chain stunned, fighting biotics, and it wasn't even that fight with Benezia. So yeah, it was. I don't know. Yeah, it just seems like the game's easier overall, which is fine with me. I don't really have a problem with it.
yeah,
Mass Effect the one's annoying in a lot of ways. So
I
I,
think they
I
made it easier because of that. I
yeah,
think
yeah.
the actually I do respect the tweaks and balances they did. I actually enjoy the game a lot
Well,
more. A lot of
okay.
people's
Let's take a step back real quick because
okay.
we kind of just jumped into this discussion. I do want to preface this saying we're gonna spoil Mass Effect 1,
Oh yeah, sorry about that, yo.
and we're probably gonna spoil Mass Effect 2 and maybe even some of 3, even though we haven't played them yet. Like we're gonna probably talk about all 3 games somewhat in here, and there may be spoilers from some other games. So
I
just
haven't touched
warning,
Mass Effect 2 and 3 yet, but
yeah.
yeah, you guys.
Just warning. I don't think we're going to talk about 3 very much. 2, I'm going to get into because I am playing it now.
Okay.
There will be some spoilers in there. I'm not going to go too deep on that, but just be aware that there may be some things you hear. So, just want to preface that. So let's get back into it though, Macho. What's your overall thoughts on this so far? Replaying these games and especially the Legendary Edition changes.
Uh, I actually do not mind it at all. To be honest with you, I think especially for one, I can't speak for 2 or 3 yet because I haven't touched those yet.
Yeah.
But for one, I am 100% on board with every change they made.
hmm
I haven't came across a change I didn't like. To be honest with you, I'm
Yeah.
actually surprised they kept Matriarch Benezia's outfit. I
Oh
thought
yeah.
they would have changed that for sure.
Yeah.
And
hmm
you can call me a pervert, but I'm glad they didn't change it. So,
I mean, I don't think it's that bad.
it's not bad.
It's just got some severe cleavage. I mean,
Yeah,
it's that's. I'm
yeah.
like, come on, we can't have that. Like, what? Come on, man. Like, fuck, dude. Like, women
But
can't ever be sexy in a video game anymore. Like, it's
that's what
like,
people make it seem like, bro.
it's shit, dude.
But yeah, I actually I like the texture changes on the faces and everything like that.
hmm
Some of them are a little severe.
Yes.
It was
Yeah.
one character in particular. I can't remember. It was one of the side characters that really doesn't have any importance. Um,
Yeah.
and the textures made him look really. Oh, Anderson. Anderson's textures look terrible in him.
Yeah.
I think Anderson's
Yeah. He
he
looks like a.
he looks old as fuck. Like he
Yeah,
looks
he
really
does.
old.
He looks like his face is really craggy. Like I don't know
Yeah,
how to explain it. Like he's really wrinkly.
yeah.
Like
They say black don't crack, but it definitely cracked on him. So I don't know. I don't know what they're trying to prove. Anderson, but
yeah.
yeah.
hmm
Everything else though, I think this is what I was expecting. I love the 60 frames per second. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I was playing on Xbox to get 120 frames, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm satisfied with the 60 frames. I think the game was meant to be ran on 60 frames. Playing it now, I'm like, yeah, this game was meant to be played
Mm-hmm.
on PC. Like they did not design this game for like
Console.
consoles,
Yeah.
even though it was an Xbox exclusive.
No, trust
Uh,
me, guys. Go back and play it on PS3 or
oh,
even Xbox 360.
oh my god,
It
oh
runs like
Jesus.
complete shit. Absolute ass cheeks. Like,
That's another thing. The guns, I can
yes,
use the fucking assault rifle now because on Mass Effect One, the
yes.
original, I had to use the pistol. Like you had to.
Yes, you had
Uh,
to. Yes. Okay. So yeah, I want to get into the specifically the changes on Mass Effect 1 first before we talk about some other stuff. Like, dude,
okay.
they did make some significant changes with Mass Effect 1, and it is really obvious. And the control of the weapons is one of the most obvious. This game, I feel like, now plays much closer to 2 and 3 than it did originally. Like, it feels a lot more precise of a shooter, Like the assault rifle thing is a great point for you to make because I was the same way. I remember last year when I played it, I used pistols and sniper rifles. Those were the weapons I used. This
Yep.
time, I used assault rifles and sniper rifles, and assault rifles were actually a viable long distance weapon, especially late in the game when you got ones that were hyper accurate.
Yep.
Your
Yep.
reticle became much more of a crosshair than it isn't originally, like earlier in the game. It's literally like an actual crosshair that expands as you fire, and the bloom gets a little bigger, but that happens in Mass Effect 2 and 3 as well. But it feels like a precise weapon you can actually utilize at mid range, which
I
was never the case in the
100%
original
agree.
game.
Now
So yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, no, but there are some issues, but
Mm-hmm.
I'll get to that later. But yeah, I think the bloom thing is a really good aspect. It actually changes a lot of the game. Another thing I
Yes.
like, which I had a really big issue with in the original Mass Effect 1, was the control of your teammates.
Mm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad I can maneuver them around the battlefield because in Mass Effect 1, you really couldn't do it that well. You can send both of them. You can
Yeah.
only send both of them at one spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
In this one, you can send, maybe you got Caden on one side, you can send them to flank, and then the other person can sit there
Mm-hmm.
and you can send the other person to flank around. So you can do flanks now and everything of that nature. So I really appreciate that. Uh, I think the targeting system it's not perfect, but the targeting system on the powers are vastly improved
Yeah.
compared to
Yeah.
one.
It's a
I
little
will,
stickier. Like it'll
yeah,
actually stick on enemies sometimes, which
exactly. I
which
will
is better than it
say,
was.
um, you will not see these changes if you did not play Mass Effect 1. Because I was talking to DJ, he did not play Mass Effect 1. He did the Omega.
Wait,
Uh,
really?
yeah, he didn't play Mass
He
Effect 1.
never played Mass Effect 1.
Nope. Because he played Mass Effect on PlayStation, so he never played Mass Effect
Wow.
1.
He never played Mass Effect 1. You motherfucker, dude. Like
Yeah. So he actually
uh
he actually played through Mass Effect 1 and he said he did not like it at all. And I understood. I didn't fight him on it because I understood why. Because if you played
mhm.
Mass Effect 2 and 3 and you go back to 1, you're
Yeah,
absolutely gonna fucking
I
hate 1.
understand. Well,
Even
okay.
with the improvements, I think you're
Yeah.
still gonna hate it because
Yeah.
you're so used to 2 and 3, in my opinion.
So I'm
And
gonna
it
jump in and make this point now. Well, sorry, finish your thought.
no,
I'm sorry.
you can go. You go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to make this point at some point because I remember I was playing through Mass Effect last year and I talked about it on the show. Mass Effect 1 verse 2. And I remember being I don't remember exactly what I said, but I was pretty positive on Mass Effect 1 and I was like I think I came off pretty negative on Mass Effect 2.
Yeah, I remember
Um
that. Yep.
and I just want to clarify the record here, okay, with this is that Mass Effect 2 is a better game in every way than Mass Effect 1 except for one area,
Story.
the overall main narrative. That
Yep.
just the main narrative. I wouldn't even say story, just the primary narrative. That's the only place Mass Effect 1 is better. Everything else, side missions, side characters, crewmates, the shooting, the lore, pretty much almost all of that is better in Mass Effect 2. Like every part of
Yeah.
it. And it's like miles better too, like miles better. So I just want to clarify that. I do like Mass Effect 1's story far better than 2's, the main narrative, the chase
Yeah.
for Saren versus the
Yep.
chase against the Collectors. I think the chase for Saren is way more interesting and
It is.
actually is important in the trilogy, whereas the chase for the Collectors, I believe, has almost no bearing on what happens in the end of the trilogy. Like it's completely almost unimportant. You could like take it out and it wouldn't
I
fucking matter.
I
You
put
know?
Mass Effect 2,
So
right? Mass Effect 2 is like Ash Ketchum going to the Orange Islands.
yes, yeah, it's exactly what it is. It's like a side adventure, even though it's not technically a side adventure. It feels that way.
It
You
feels
know,
that way. Yeah.
it feels like they were stalling. Like they
Yeah.
needed a second game, and they needed to come up with a reason to have a second game. And a lot of the narrative in there is just feels like stalling, and that's
Well,
fine. There's nothing wrong
did
with
you
that. It's
did you
just
play the Project Atlas, I think it is, DLC yet?
at. Are you talking about Mass Effect 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that leads into Mass Effect 3, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I played that way back in the day, actually, and I know what you're talking about there. That one literally directly leads into the story of Mass Effect 3,
Yeah.
which that is a cool DLC, but it has nothing to do with the rest of the game. You know,
It
it's
doesn't. Yeah, you're
completely
right.
separate. It like has nothing to do with the game's story. So
Yeah,
It's like its own self-contained thing.
yeah, you're right. It's funny though. I actually like Mass Effect 1. Um, Not only because we're gonna get to an article that made me actually think about this game
Mm-hmm.
really hard
Mm-hmm.
later on, like maybe like 10 minutes, maybe about 5 or 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
But so after analyzing Mass Effect 1, because of this article, I analyzed the fuck out of it. And this game, or Mass Effect 1, I think a lot of people don't get a lot of credit for its fucking political intrigue. I
Yeah.
think this game is super political as
Yep.
far as like how what they're trying to do. I think it makes this point. I think the world building is like top notch, in
Mm-hmm.
my opinion. There are
Yeah.
very little plot holes as far
Mm-hmm.
as like the world building and why they're doing what they're doing, what they need to do, and why they need to do it. Uh, the writing here is just this is like when I say guys, I'm not even trying to be fucking fanboying, but this is some top tier writing right here. This is how you write
Mm-hmm.
a fucking video game, a
Yeah.
world for a video game. Like everyone has motives. You can see the tension between like the Torians and the humans still. Like everything is still fucking there,
Mm-hmm.
and you just feel it. It's a really good. I think Mass Effect 1 story wise really sets a tone. That's why I tell people not to skip it because
Yeah.
you need that tone.
It's so important. If you come into Mass Effect 2, you're missing so much context,
Yeah,
dude. Like
yeah.
so much context. It's unbelievable that like because I don't. I almost feel like Mass Effect 3 is not going to even make sense to you. You know, like if you skip
I
Mass
feel
Effect
like
1.
it's certain things. Are the Elcor in Mass Effect 2? Have
They're
you?
there. They're not. I don't know if they're ever in like a scene though, like as a
Okay.
important
Well, not as important, but like,
race.
do you talk to him and stuff like that?
I
Right?
don't
I
even know
can't
if that
remember.
happens. I don't. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't remember.
So
I saw them in the background of one cutscene so far.
okay. So I remember. I mean, obviously, I remember. I just played it, but I when I came across it, I didn't even realize until I encountered the Elcor again. So I was playing it, and someone asked me, "Why do they talk like that? Why are they saying, regretful, and then they talk?" And I had to explain it to him. But
Yeah.
that's the part, right? Like the game, soon as you go into the Citadel, you have the embassy over to the right, and
Yes.
you have the Volus
It's one of the
and
first places you're gonna go, probably.
yeah, and they explain to you why they talk to you like that, why they
Yeah.
talk like that, and I just thought like that's such a really cool fucking character, not character design, but game design moment. Like that's an
Mm.
actual like game
Mm-hmm.
design 101 moment.
Mm-hmm.
You put that there to let the character know this is what you expect from these characters, and you observe
Yeah.
them through the ambassadors. So like the Volus, you already know like a lot of them are snarky. They kind of talk slow. They don't talk really slow, but they talk because they have to
They're
breathe.
deliberate in what they say. Yeah.
Exactly. Whereas the Elcor, they they talk monotone, like as fuck.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
monotone where they have to tell you before they talk
Yeah, what
what their
their
tone is
emotion
meant.
they're trying to convey is, yeah,
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
because that's how monotone they are, yeah. But the
Yeah.
the codex entries explain that, it's like they don't on their world they don't even really speak to each other. Like
Yeah.
they use like scents and hand gestures and facial expressions to kind of express themselves to each other. So when they met the other races, they needed to learn how to talk and express their emotions,
Yeah.
and that's why they say what they say.
Oh yeah,
So
the codex entries. If you guys have like an hour, just go through the codex entries.
dude, that guy, the voice that reads the codex entries, iconic. Just so iconic, dude. He's perfect, man. He's just perfect. Like he just has the perfect inflection for a sci-fi game. But to your point about the structure of Mass Effect 1, what I will say, it is funny replaying it because I was really impatient with Mass Effect 1. I just wanted to get through it and platinum it as fast as I could
Yeah.
because I just played it last year. I already remember the story. I have a pretty vivid memory of everything with Mass Effect 1. So I was just trying to get through it. So the game kind of it was annoying me, to be frank. Like the game's not that fun to play when you've played it already. It's just not a game that like is engaging. Like the gameplay's not that good, like
Yeah.
unfortunately. So, and frankly, when you know the story, unfortunately, that side of it isn't that fun either because you know the story and everything. So, but so I want to talk about the design of the early game from two different sides, right? From somebody coming in, never playing it, which is kind of what you were getting at, is that it's kind of a masterclass of design from that perspective, right? You're somebody who doesn't know this universe, you're coming in fresh. You don't know any of these races. You don't know the status quo of the universe. You don't know where the human race is. None of that stuff. But they slowly introduce you to all these races in a way like you get introduced to the Turians right away with Silas and Saren, with the first mission or whatever, and then you get introduced to the Council, but you also get thrown onto the Citadel after the first mission, and all the races are there. You meet them all throughout running around the Citadel, and that's the intent of the game, is that you're going to run around and explore the Citadel. In the early game, you're going to meet the Volus, you're going to meet the Elcor, you're going to run into Asari, you're going to meet Solarians, you're going to meet Turians, you're going to meet all these fucking races or whatever. And there's very key NPCs that kind of represent each race, because you have like the consort with the Asari, you have the banker guy who's kind of a Volus, then you have that diplomat, the embassy guy who's a Volus, who kind of introduces you to how the Volus are. I'm trying to remember what you have all the C-Sec officers who are like pretty much almost all Turians who
Yep.
interact with you. And then you meet Rex as a Krogan, and you kind of get introduced to them a little bit too. So it's they give you they run the gamut of all these races and really introduce them all to you very quickly. So you kind of get an idea of what the status quo is in this universe. And I think that's really well done. However, on a second playthrough, dude, what I will say is that I am noticing playing these games again is that Mass Effect 1 starts so fucking slow. Like, it feels like 30 minutes before you're on the ground in Eden Prime actually doing your first mission, and then you do that mission, and then you spend like 2 or 3 hours in the Citadel just running around doing, like, not fighting anything.
Yeah,
You
you're
know?
right. You're right.
And
You're
it's
absolutely
annoying
right.
as fuck, dude. You feel like you're not doing anything, So it's interesting to kind of come at it from that perspective and look at it that way, because I've never really looked at Mass Effect 1 that way. But playing through it this time, I was really impatient with it. So it was really pissing me off how much shit there was to do in the Citadel at the beginning of the game. I just wanted to get out on the galaxy map, start clearing shit out, but you have to do that stuff on the Citadel. It's really important to do a lot of it early in the game, because it really gives you a lot of the base you need for the rest of the game, in
Yeah. Yep.
terms of levels and equipment and learning things about the other races and stuff. Um, so yeah, it's interesting. Mass Effect 2, I will say, is similarly slow, not as slow, but does also kind of have its own problems in that regard too. The game doesn't let you take control for a while, for like two hours or so, and it is a little irritating in that regard. That seems to be a trend with this series for me so far. So, but yeah, Montrell, when was the last time you played Mass Effect 1? How long has it been for you?
I actually played it last year, so I
Oh,
was a
you
little
did.
impatient. Yeah,
Okay.
I was. I played actually Mass Effect 1 and 2 last year, and I stopped at 3.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I mean, but so that's everything was kind of fresh for me still. And I was, like you said, impatient, and I thought that's just because I spoiled myself and played it last year, because I didn't even know
hmm
this collection was coming out until
Well, we
just
both
now.
did it. We literally
Yeah,
both called it. We're like, yeah, I'm hesitant to keep playing through this because I just feel like EA is gonna announce a fucking collection or something, and then
yeah,
they did.
they did. Yeah,
So.
so um, so as far as that, I thought it was just me because I played through it, so I felt like my opinion would be biased in that because I already played through the game
hmm
once. But uh, I don't know. I like how I like how there's a lot more dialogue options. I will say this: I do remember being very disappointed by the time I got to Mass Effect 3 on my
mm
last playthrough last year, or yeah, last year.
Yeah.
It's partly the reason I stopped playing, because your dialogue is just non-existent. I
mm
don't know. I'll wait for y'all to get there, so we'll probably talk about it next week. I think Justin probably be there by next week. If he keeps playing the way he's playing. Uh,
Yeah, I'm
but
determined, dude.
I'm really interested to hear how you feel like the dialogue for Shepard, like your choices,
Yeah.
severely get cut off. Like there are certain points where you just don't even choose. He's all
Yeah,
Shepard's talking.
it's interesting you say that, because I was noticing that I was really paying attention to things in this playthrough of Mass Effect 1, because I wasn't absorbing the story as much. I was really trying to pay attention to the finer details. And these are that's one of the things I picked up, is that there are really key moments of the game where you lose control of everything. Like, your agency is taken away. Like, they don't let you influence what happens at all. Like, things just play out in front of you and you're not able to even react really.
Yep.
And What I'll also say too is that I'm playing Renegade on this playthrough, and I'm really not digging the Renegade route on
It is a
like
hard route to go through.
I didn't like it on Mass Effect 1, but I'm really not liking it so far on Mass Effect 2 because it's honestly like Renegade, the way they design Renegade is it's just like you're a dick. You just say mean things to people for no reason. Like you just like it's not like you make it's not necessarily that you make the hard decision. It's like you're just an asshole. You just like you just say mean shit and you call people names and you're like, you're really aggressive towards everybody and it's like I don't really love it. I'm like debating about going to just switching to Paragon because I don't really, I don't know. I'm not like because to get Renegade points in Mass Effect 2, you have to be mean to everybody, including your like squad mates, and it's like it kind of sucks. Like it's not like a fun experience, Like you're not like building camaraderie with anybody, but it happens anyways. Like they still like you for some reason, even though you say mean shit to them. It's like I don't know. It's a bizarre experience. I think it's not really well designed personally. I think a Paragon Shepherd is way more natural, in my experience, and I think that is the canon way to play the game. Like I really think that's what the intent was, even though they give you the choice. My memory of Mass Effect is that Paragon Shepherd is just like that's the way the game feels like it was meant to be played. But other things I kind of one other thing I noticed that I want to bring up too is the characters, the crew members in particular, is that I was really paying attention to all of them and like their arcs and kind of the discussions you have with all of them. And I think everybody is pretty well fleshed out for the most part, except for Garrus. And he sticks out to me like a sore fucking thumb in Mass Effect 1 in particular. Because I don't know if you felt the same way, Montreal. I mean, you haven't completely finished it yet, so maybe you have more to do with him. But I feel like the discussions you have with him on the Normandy are really one note, and that's about it. It's really about him complaining about CSEC, complaining about the fact that he couldn't just do whatever he wanted, and take justice into his own hands, and that's literally every conversation you have with him. And then you have a side quest with him to go find Dr. Saleon. And it's one of the most bare bones side quests in the entire game where you go on a ship, you fight some husks, you confront Dr. Saleon. You don't even really talk to him much. You literally walk in the door, he says something to you, and then you decide whether you kill him or not. And that's like the side mission. And that's it. And then Garrus doesn't say anything to you about it after that, pretty much, in the ship. Like he never mentions it again. And that's it. And he has like no real bearing on the main plot either, as a character. Like he's not really important. I just kind of feel like he's really one dimensional in the first game, and it kind of
Yeah,
sticks out bad to me.
I think that's why in Mass Effect 2 they really fleshed him out better. Like
Hmm.
he's really fleshed out in Mass Effect 2. Because you're right, in Mass Effect 1, I'm like, I don't even know why I like him in here. Like
Yeah,
I
I don't know
like
why anyone liked him. That's what I'm thinking. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, why did we like this guy? Like, there's nothing about him that's interesting.
it's Mass Effect 2.
It is.
You know
Yeah,
what?
it is.
Mass Effect 2 was my first Mass Effect. Actually, I didn't play
Yeah,
Mass Effect 1.
yeah.
Went Mass Effect 2 and then I went back and played Mass Effect 1.
Hmm.
But yeah, I remember just taking Garrus everywhere with me because I was like, yo, this guy is my guy. Now in
Yeah.
Mass Effect 1 though, my guy is fucking Rex. I take Rex everywhere with me.
Oh, he's the shit, dude.
Yeah.
He's a jewel. He is such a jewel. I love Rex so much, dude.
Him and
Yeah,
Rex and Tally are very good teammates to take, not only for the squad powers, but they have so much personality. They add a lot of
yeah.
personality to your.
I think Liara is a great third as well.
Yeah. She's definitely a great sub. I think Caden and Ashley, they're still weak characters to me, which is why
Yes,
I think you make the decision you make, and why
that's why they
and
chose them over the others. Yeah,
yeah, and then
yeah,
and then two, um, obviously they're. I'm not going to spoil it, but some things happen where they just won't even. They're just not present, pretty much.
yeah. They're
And
not.
then,
I mean, this isn't. I don't know. Maybe it's a spoiler, but they're
yeah,
not really in your party in Mass Effect 2. Like,
yeah, and then in three is just yeah. I don't know. You're gonna get into three,
yeah,
but yeah, those characters are really weak. Caden in particular, I think he should have a lot more lore because I like his lore as far as like being
yeah.
that experimental L2 biotic,
Hmm.
right? I think there should just be a lot more with him.
I
He's
agree, actually. Yeah, I
he's
think he
just
was done a
so
disservice.
yeah. I think his character has a lot of had a lot of potential. They just
Mhm.
really went one note with him, and they kept him by the books. And
Yeah.
that's the reason I really didn't like him, because he was so by the books. Like it was just like I'm like, bro, like you have
Yeah, he's
any
kinda
person.
generic.
Yeah, yeah.
You
It's
know?
just like I don't know. And that's how I actually felt about in 3, I think his name is Vasquez.
Oh, what I don't remember his name, but
I
he's
can't
the isn't he the gay
Vargas.
party
Is it
member?
Vargas? Yeah, he's the
Yeah,
bisexual.
Vargas, yeah.
He's the
Yeah.
bisexual one.
Oh, he's bisexual, okay.
Yeah, he's
I don't
bisexual. And
remember.
I actually felt that way about him until I actually was like, I did on my third run last year. I got pretty far actually. To think about it, I talked to him a lot more, and I'm like, actually, this guy has a lot of depth to him. Like
Yeah.
he's actually pretty. He's not just a meathead. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he actually like kind of mentions that like people just think he's a fucking meathead or whatever, but he's actually not. So I thought that was like pretty cool. But yeah, Ashley and Caden is Ashley, which is funny, right? Because we
Yeah.
always joke about her in the Mass Effect community that she's like super racist. She's actually voiced by a black woman, which is hilarious to me. Uh,
Dude, who is that voice actress? She sounds really familiar.
I think it's uh, fuck. I think it's like Ashley Tyler or something like that.
I
Or
swear to God, I've heard her in other things before. Yeah, her voice actresses. Maybe it's just maybe I'm just biased towards Mass Effect, and that's where I'm remembering her from. But
okay, it's Aisha Tyler. She was the one that was on you remember she did the Ubisoft thing?
wait, really? Wait,
Yeah, I
whoa,
think
hold on. Wait. The Aisha Tyler was Ashley Williams.
yeah, I believe so. I'm checking it right now. Hold on.
Hold on. That's wild if that's the case. No, okay, no. It says Kimberly Brooks.
Oh, fuck, okay.
I was gonna say, dude, I should. That would have been wild. Like what? Oh, okay. She's voice acting Barbara in the Batman Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. That's where I remember her
Okay.
from.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so I thought that was funny when I found that out. I'm like, oh, she's a black woman. That's cool.
Mhm.
Uh
Yeah, but she's playing. It's really funny though. She's playing like literally like dude, what I would call now like just like what people perceive to be a typical conservative in America.
yeah.
That's what
She's
Ashley
so
Williams is like,
conservative.
like
She's so
straight up.
she says what like oh my god. Like you talk to her right after you get a couple of aliens on the fucking
Yeah,
ship.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
y'all have to talk to her. And when you talk to her, she's like, it's equivalent to be like, hey man, we got a lot of blacks in here, huh? It's
I mean, you're not wrong, dude. She's pretty
and
anti other races.
I wanted the game to be so realistic to where like Rex or fucking Garrett's here. Like, what the fuck did you just say?
What
Like,
did you say? Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, they're standing right there, bro. Like they're in the fucking hangar with you, like with them, you know.
She's like, no offense, sir. I just don't trust them, especially the Turians. I mean, man, the first contact war, holy shit. Like
Yeah,
people were
yeah,
like Turians too. Don't get it twisted. Turians are pretty fucking racist against humans. They're like, yo, y'all
yeah.
coming over here. Y'all kind of just like us. I don't like it. Like y'all taking over
Mhm.
shit.
Yeah.
So
I will say though, there is a little bit of depth to Ashley.
no,
Like,
no.
when you actually start getting deep in her conversation trees, like there's a reason she distrusts aliens.
Yeah.
There's
There's a legitimate reason why. I mean, like her.
yeah.
I'm not going to spoil it, but there's
I mean,
legitimate reasons why she does not like aliens. And
it's not justifying. I'm not trying to justify her racism. I'm saying from the perspective of the game, though, they explain why she is the way she is.
Yeah,
You know, from a character building perspective, doesn't mean she's justified in what she does. She's not.
It was a one line though that she said, right? And then you say to her, I think you say, "That's a little xenophobic, don't you think?" And she was like, yeah, "I swear to fucking God, I heard this in real life." It was like,
Yeah.
"I'm not xenophobic. That's patriotism, sir." I was like, "Oh my fucking God!"
Oh, no, I told you, conservative man. She's a conservative man. Like
So,
she's a plant. She's a plant.
so my joke was she would definitely wear a hat, a mega hat. That says,
No, she would, dude.
"Make Earth great
You know
again."
what's funny, though? you know what's funny though? I actually like that character is in the game though. That a character like that is in the game because it's realistic, first of all. But second of
Yes.
all,
Yep.
like I think that representation of things, like I think that needs to be in things because now if we made a Mass Effect game now, the character of Ashley Williams wouldn't be in the game because the video game industry doesn't want to represent that kind of voice. Which I mean, I understand from one perspective. From another, though, it's like those things exist, you know. And if you want to have a realistic, fleshed out world, you need to have people like that in it, you know.
And that was my main problem with Mass Effect Andromeda. They don't
Yeah.
have characters like that. All the characters were
Mhm.
super. I,
Progressive.
yeah, there you go. That's a good word. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
super progressive. There wasn't any characters that were like going against the foe, going against the mantle, or anything like that,
Mhm.
or had different perspectives. Whereas Mass Effect One, I feel like you
Man,
had.
they're all over the place,
Yeah,
dude.
man.
They litter the game. It's kind of crazy, actually. How many humans you run into who are kind of xenophobic? Like it's interesting because there's one side mission that's like completely random. You come back to the Citadel at some point, and one of the rear admirals just shows up and inspects your ship, and he's a piece of he's like an asshole. He's like a total xenophobic asshole. He's like non-humans on your ship, Captain. What are you thinking? You know, kind of shit. And
Remember your alliance first, and it's like,
yeah,
bro,
exactly.
what?
Yeah, dude, like hyper patriotic. But dude, it's no. The thing is, though, it's cool that that's there because
I
like
like that.
that is really realistic. Like those people aren't gonna go away. Like they would exist in this
Yeah,
world too. You
exactly.
know.
And it's like,
So
how would you maneuver that in that time
yes,
period? And I
right.
like that, right? Because you don't have to play into it. Like you can, and that's why it's hard for me to go through Renegade because Renegade Shepard's kind of xenophobic himself.
Xenophobic. Yes, that is
Uh,
another issue with it. Yep, definitely.
so it's like, but I do like that aspect of the game that I have to experience these characters and their emotions and why they are the way they are and things of that nature. And even the aliens, why they're xenophobic towards certain aliens and things of that nature. Like the guy on Novaria, how he's just like, I fucking hate humans, or he doesn't hate them, but he's like, you guys are. He said something. That was like really xenophobic. He was just like, you guys are pretty much called it slow compared to like he was like, yeah, you guys live on that rock earth and they're poor. He's like, my people aren't poor. He's like, we have no homeless people on our earth, on back on the Solarian home planet. He's like, you
Yeah.
guys,
Are you talking about Ananias or whatever?
yeah, Annaleus. Like, he's like, yeah,
Yeah.
he's like, pretty much you guys fucking suck. Like, I hate you
Yeah.
guys. You guys suck at
That
all.
dude was a piece of shit, man. I
I mean,
fucking
he was
hated
making
that
some
guy.
good points though, but yeah, he's a piece of
Yeah.
shit.
No, he's a greedy asshole though. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, you brought up Novaria though. I kind of want to get into this real quick. I know we've been on this for a while, but I kind of want to ask you though, like, what are your favorite worlds, and what worlds did you not care for of the main mission areas?
I really didn't care for the Thorian home planet.
Pharos,
Pharos,
yeah,
yeah.
that world sucks.
Yeah, I really didn't care for that world at all. I thought it was a really
Yeah.
it reminded me of a cool Star Trek episode, and I think that's what they're trying to go for in that
Mm,
world. But it
mhm.
definitely reminded me of that. But I can do without that world, in my opinion. Uh I can't remember the worlds off the top of my head right now. So I
Well,
think
so yeah, Pharos, Novaria, Therum, which is the one where you save Liara, Vermeer, and then Ilos.
I think
Those are the
Vermeer is
big
my
ones.
favorite one. Vermeer is my
Yeah,
favorite one.
I would agree with you. I like Ilos as well.
I do
I think
remember liking Ilos. I can't remember what happens in Ilos.
well, it's just because of the Prothean like projection that you meet. That's really the main reason I like that world because there's just so much lore you get there
Okay.
where it tells you about. Oh, you haven't gotten there yet, right?
Yeah, I haven't got there yet.
Yeah, because
So
it tells you about the Citadel and what it actually is and what the keepers are, you know, and all that stuff. There's just a lot. This is like a big lore dump on that world that's really cool. Like it really fleshes out the plot in a great way. You get a lot of answers to questions you've had for the whole game. Yeah, I would say for me though, Vermeer is my favorite because that is the world where you can tell they were really. That's the one level in the game where they really were ambitious. You can
yeah.
tell what they were going for because that mission is the one mission that is structured like a Mass Effect 2 mission, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Because all the missions in Mass Effect 2 kind of have similar structure, but in Mass Effect 1 they just didn't. I don't know. They either didn't have the time or the vision or the capability to make their missions like this. But Vermeer is the one mission where like people are talking to you over comms. There's shit happening off, like quote off screen. You know, things are going on as you're progressing through the mission. Like it's a really
It's a really
active
high
mission in that
stakes
regard.
mission.
That regard, yeah. Whereas with Mass Effect 2, almost every mission you do is like that, where people are talking to you as you're running around. You know, it's like because in Mass Effect 1 when you have a conversation with somebody, it's pretty much the only time you hear people talking to you is when the game stops and you
Yeah,
get the
yeah,
conversation wheel. It never happens when you're just kind of walking around, you know, like and you're actually in control of Shepard. That doesn't happen very much, to be honest. In Mass Effect 1, it's not a common thing in the game. So that's why that mission sticks out so much, because Vermeer is almost like it feels like a modern game design. It feels like modern game design with that
yeah,
mission,
yep.
which is really cool. Now, I will say, close second for me though is Novaria. That world is really fucking cool. It has probably the best side mission in the entire game with the Administrator Ananias stuff.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
where you kind of expose him to be like funneling money or whatever for himself and like purposefully sabotaging shit so he can make more money. And then you find out his secretary is like a internal affairs fucking agent for Novaria's board or some shit. It's really fucking cool, actually. And there's like multiple different ways that mission can end too, which is really awesome design. I feel like it really, that one stands out for me too, big time. But those are the big ones for me.
Yeah, I mean, I had the same ones as you. Yeah, Vermeer was my favorite, and Feros is my
Yeah.
least favorite. I didn't like it at all. Novaria is a close second because you do make some. That one is about story.
Mm-hmm.
It's about what Mass Effect was trying to be, like this whole
Yeah.
narrative
Yeah.
driven thing with parts of action in it, and it really shows in on Novaria what they're trying to. You really get what the game is about on Novaria. Like that's what this game is about. I feel
Yeah.
like you don't really get it until you get to Novaria.
Yeah.
To be honest
Well,
with
because
you.
you make a really huge decision on Novaria too,
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
you let the Rachni Queen live or not.
Yep.
That's like probably one of the biggest decisions in the entire game, actually.
Because
I
that
mean,
actually in the series, because that affects
it
all the way.
permeates through all three games. Yeah,
Yeah.
your decision there definitely does. I mean, it's not hugely profound what happens with that decision, but um, if you let her live, there's really cool shit that happens in the second game and the third game. Some cool stuff you get from that. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, and that, you know, Novaria is funny too, because that world is the one that probably gave me Metroid vibes more than any other. Dude, that whole mission, I was doing that mission and all I could hear was like the ice part of the, you know, the ice level music from Metroid Prime when you go to
Oh yeah.
the snow.
Yeah.
That's all I was hearing in my head the whole time I was on Novaria, dude, was that music playing, because that's kind of what that area feels like, a lot of it. Because you're running into a lot of like kind of monster creatures and stuff in that section of the game. You're not fighting a ton of humans or humanoids. I mean, you do fight some, but you know, that area is primarily dominated by like an alien monster race. So it was, you know, it's just kind of a cool break too from the rest of the game in that regard too. It's like a break of kind of pace. You don't, like, using cover is like not part of that mission, you know.
Yeah.
Because you don't, they're like melee attackers. You need to keep moving in order to avoid them. So yeah, there's some cool levels in Mass Effect 1. I think the game overall is like good. I wouldn't say it's amazing. Like, it's such a weird thing. It sucks, dude. Like, I really hope someday they go back and remake it, because I think it's a game that really could use some love in terms of fleshing out some of the level design, obviously making the combat better, but also even fleshing out some of the dialogue trees as well. Because there are a lot of moments in the game that are weirdly like shallow, I would say, where you kind of like you show up in a room and there's like a standoff happening and you get like two opportunities to say anything. Like, you say one thing to calm the situation down or to escalate it. And then if you escalate it, you fight. If you calm it down, you get one more opportunity to convince everybody to put their guns down, and that's like the end of it. You know, like, it's not like super deep. Like, there's not like a philosophical discussion happening really. So I'd say the game can be a little shallow in that regard too at times. But Montreal, is there anything else you want to talk about with Mass Effect 1?
Nope. We can go ahead and move on to the
All right.
news.
So there was an article. Well, I have it under news, but like this is related to our discussion. There was an article that came out from Polygon saying this was the title of it. Mass Effect's revival reminds us it's time to abolish the space police. And this was written by someone named Yusuf Cole on Polygon. I definitely recommend people read this because, I mean, Montreal and I are about to discuss it, but I think like it's just something you probably want to think about. Okay. And we're going to get into this. So, I mean, the main crux of the article is talking about Mass Effect and how Shepard's actions within the games are really the author's trying to frame it as quote copaganda, that you are a cop. Basically, you're playing a cop in the Mass Effect universe as Shepard all the time, and you have unilateral authority to do whatever you want, and that this is basically pro cop propaganda that this game is pushing forward, and uh, Montreal, how does this article sit with you, or how has it sat with you as you've kind of stewed on it this week?
Um, I tried to actually look at it from like different angles,
Mm-hmm.
and I talked to different people about it who have played Mass Effect and things of that nature. So when I get this
Mm-hmm.
disclaimer out of the way, I actually protested last summer, so I am
Yeah.
not super pro cop at all.
Yeah. Right.
Um, so
Neither am I. I'll
yeah,
put that out there as well.
but this article reaches to the depths of hell to get its point.
Yeah.
The only part I can actually see cop Ganda is maybe Mass Effect 2 when you had to do that interrogation with fucking the C-Sect and Thane and his son and stuff like that. But even
Mm-hmm.
that part, I feel like you were just working the angles, if that makes any sense. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
because they say stuff in there too, like, you guys are really against, you guys don't treat the higher level people that you arrest compared to the lower level people, to the low people and stuff like that. So they actually have dialogue or um nuance as far as like policing and stuff like that, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they're making these points way back in 2010 or whenever Mass Effect 2 came out.
Mm-hmm.
uh so Mass Effect 1, uh, I can't see it. He makes one point to where, oh, Shepard is just like this fucking. We said Shepard's an asshole, but he can do everything, he can do anything he wants with no consequence, and it's like, did we play the same game?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Everything you do has a consequence, in my opinion, to what you're doing. Like, yeah, you can talk like an asshole to people, but you don't get your way. Like the game is literally saying you're not going to get your way.
I mean, the whole game is about the fact that the council doesn't believe you
Exactly.
about anything you're doing, and then that continues into the second game. By the way, like the second game starts with you getting kind of relegated to just like they're just like pushing you into some part of space that they can forget about you. Like they're not even letting you pursue the threat that you revealed in Mass Effect 1. They're just still trying to bury it, like they don't want to believe it, no matter what you fucking do. So, yeah, that part of it is a little weird.
Yeah,
I'd
and,
say.
and, and he makes a point about which I guess applies to all games, which we actually talked about a couple episodes way earlier in the pod about the power fantasy in video
Yeah.
games. When we talked
Mhm.
about that, and we covered that in one of our topic shows, I believe.
Mhm.
When we were still doing that. So I actually agree with him on that part. I don't agree with him about how he wrote that Mass Effect does your power fantasy. The only time you're doing a power fantasy is when you're actually playing the game. Through
Mhm.
conversations, you don't have a power fantasy, in my opinion, at all. Like some some parts you can't just bogard your way through. You can't
Mhm.
choose to do that. And I think that's where he gets the option, right? He doesn't understand that this is a game of choice. If you want to be super powerful asshole Shepard, you have that choice to do that. That's
Mm,
your choice. But you can be
mhm,
renegade shepherd or neutral shepherd and just
mhm,
not do certain things. You
mhm,
cannot first even the renegade options talk you out of fighting people. Like they'll be like, you're like, if you don't step down, I'm gonna kill you. And they're like, you know what? I don't get paid enough for this shit. You're right.
mhm.
Bye. So
Yeah.
um as far as Shepard being the Spectre, um, I think Saren was one of the greatest examples of like the game was showing you. Oh, that's another thing that the article was saying. Like you just have too much power as far as that goes. Like you can do anything you want to. You can impose anything you want to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And the game is literally telling you, Shepard, you
Mhm.
can't do everything you want to fucking do. The game,
I
Saren
mean,
and
yeah.
it's actually going against I think it's going against policing as far as its military power and the power that we give military officials because Saren is one prime example. He kills another fucking
Spectre.
Spectre in front of you, and you have eyewitness testimony. It was like, yeah, I saw him kill him, and they're
And they
like,
don't believe you.
yeah, they're like,
Yeah.
no, this is my guy. Like, what are you talking about? Like, we've been working with
Yeah,
Saren for
like,
years.
dude, this is the part of the article that this is where it starts to fall apart for me when they brought that part of it up that you're a Spectre and you have like unilateral authority to do what you want, but the game literally shows you the other side of that coin. Like with Saren, like it's showing you both sides of that coin where like you're the good Spectre, the one who's trying to actually save the galaxy and protect it, and Saren is the bad Spectre who uses his power to like fucking kill people and squelch others and abuse his power and like uses that to his advantage the whole game. Like
And not to
it's
mention the
it's a weird
entire
perspective to take, I'd say, given that.
yeah, what's funny is the police are actually against you. They're like, "Yo, you have way too much power.
Yeah,
We have a
people bring it up
process."
constantly that
Yeah,
you have too much authority. That the
yeah,
fact that you can do whatever you want is a problem. Like everywhere you go, like on Novaria, you almost have a fucking you almost blow up the security guards who approach you at the beginning because you don't want to give your guns up. And it's like, like the game almost forces you into that confrontation too. But it's an interesting thing about it though because it's calling into question like are you in the right here. I don't think that's clear. Like I really don't think that's ever clear, and I don't think the game. I think there are periods of time where the game does take a definitive stand and really puts you in a positive light as the player character, but there are plenty of small moments where that's in question. Like when you're doing these little interactions with people and you just do something and like the game's like the characters in the game are like what the fuck dude, like you can't just do that, but then you're like yes I can, I'm a Spectre bitch. And it's like so I get where the author is coming from in that regard, but at the same time, the game is questioning you. It's not like the game is just putting you in this like you're on this pedestal and everyone's like fucking revering you. Oh, you're such a wonderful Spectre. Oh, it's amazing. The Spectres are awesome. Like there's plenty of people who are skeptical of the Spectres and don't think they should exist. Even some of your party members question
I
the
was just about to
Spectres.
say that. Yeah,
Like I think Kanan brings it up at times because he is kind of the straight man.
yeah,
That he's uncomfortable with the idea of that group. So I
yeah.
don't
And
like.
depending on it, well, it doesn't matter. In part two, like
Mhm.
your old party member literally turns against you. He's like, "Yo, I'm not going with you. You're with Cerberus. Like, bro, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Like, you're
Hmm.
with a terrorist group. Like, these are
Yeah.
terrorists, you know." And
Yeah.
it's and people treat you differently over that, like because you're with a terrorist organization. The only
Right.
reason you have a little bit of clout is because you saved the council. Like that's or if you
Yeah.
didn't save the council, So
Well,
it's
either
like,
way, you did defeat Sovereign,
yeah,
no
exactly.
matter what. So yeah.
So it's like you have that. And I think he mentions Garrus too.
Mm-hmm.
But Garrus is a cop. He's an
Yes.
ex cop.
Yeah. He mentions Garrus as like a kind of I don't even know how to word it, but like an example of a character who's literally all about doing things outside of the authority, but outside the authority that police are normally given. But it's silly because we just brought this up earlier. Is like his whole arc in the first game is we just criticized it because it is too one note in that regard. Like he's all about doing things his way, but go ahead and make your point because I know you're about to build on that too.
Yeah. So um I tweeted it out, but I didn't want to tweet out too much because people are playing the game and they haven't played it.
Mhm.
So like fast forward past this part if you don't want to hear Garrett's arc in 2. So Garrus becomes a vigilante in 2.
Yep.
And I think the part that the author was trying to make was Garrus is an example of when police have too much power, or
Yeah.
not just police, but I think he's akin to like white men with guns, and they just have too much power. They can, they can use the stand their ground rule to shoot other people when they are in danger, or be
Yeah.
vigilantes like George Zimmerman, things of that nature.
Mhm.
And that would make sense if Garrus went on Omega, where it's literally the wild, wild west of fucking Mass Effect. And there are criminals everywhere, criminal organizations. There's no policing at all. Like the only policing they have is like other gangs, whoever on top, and that's like minimum policing at that. So Garrus went there and was like, "Oh, well, fuck, I can be a vigilante here, just kill everybody." And
Mhm.
your start of the game, when you first enter Omega, is Garrus is surrounded by 3 gangs who hate each other, and they're like, "Yo, we hate each other, but we hate him more." And
Mhm.
you obviously save him, but throughout the game, you see that Garrus's fucking ambition to be this vigilante literally gets everyone killed around him. He had a whole team with him, and they all
Mhm.
die because of his ambition. And he takes account of that. He's like, I fucked up, like, because I wanted to be this vigilante and do good. Now I understand why there's red tape. Now I understand why we got to do things a certain way. Not all the time, but certain times. And he like questions you, like he's like, "How did you do this? How would
Mhm.
you maneuver through this and everything like that?" And you guys talk about it, and I feel like that's a consequence of his actions of being a vigilante. Like in 1, he was so like, "Oh, I hate red tape" and everything like that. And it's like the game gave him that opportunity. Okay, well, you go do what you want to do, Garrus. You be this super uber vigilante, and literally his whole team gets killed because of him.
Yeah, and this is like, to me, that's actually a really good character arc for somebody like him. Is that he learns that even with unilateral, like no one really holding him accountable, it still doesn't go the way he thinks it's going to go.
Yep.
Like, and it has a huge effect on him. Like in Mass Effect 2, like he's a very different character in Mass Effect 2 than he is in Mass Effect 1. In Mass Effect 1, I'd almost say he's more of a naive like boy in the way he thinks about things. Like he's like an immature individual. Like he isn't, his mind isn't one, he's not thinking in terms of something like a mature adult would, in terms of these things. Like he's just like, I don't want to deal with red tape. I just want to, I want to, like, if somebody's evil, they need to die. Like that's the way he thinks about the world. But in Mass Effect 2, I think he's a lot more introspective because of what happens on Omega with him, and that is good writing in the game. So I don't know, this article really starts to stretch later on too, in terms of what it's trying to say, because there's very clear political, I mean, obviously this is a huge politically leaning article. Like the author just inserts their politics into this whole thing. But like there's a part about here where they talk about the lesser races, like some of the Batarians and stuff, and the writer of the article almost tries to frame this as like they're the poor, like little victims, the Batarians are, and like everyone else like they aren't, they're never framed as the victims, even though they kind of are the victims. And I don't like, I get where they're going with this, but I actually do think the game does explain a little bit somewhat of the Batarian situation, because if you read the codex entries, which I know not everyone's going to do that, but you read the codex entries, and the Batarians were done dirty, like by the council, because the humans showed up and started colonizing worlds that they wanted to colonize.
Yep.
And they went to the council and were like, hey, stop them. Like, we want these worlds. We had these worlds. We were planning to take these worlds. And the council says, no, fuck you. Pretty much. And they didn't like the Batarians. So the Batarians left the council and got rid of their Citadel embassy and just retreated into the Traverse and like started a war with humanity as well, in order to get those worlds back. And it didn't work out. So they retreated back, and they're kind of considered evil in that regard. But I don't think the game, like when you really like look into the game and you go into all the conversation trees surrounding libertarians, you read the codex entries, the game doesn't really, it kind of just presents the facts. And there are periods where libertarians show up and they are considered terrorists in most of those situations. But I can, like, this is my problem with the articles. Like, it's just like, that is kind of realistic when you think about it, man. Like, they're going to be an extremist faction because they got pushed into becoming an extremist faction. You know,
it was literally,
like,
it was like our faults, right? Like or not
yes,
us,
yeah,
but like the humans
yeah,
came in and we didn't. I'll say the humans like really didn't know what the fuck they were doing, right? They're just like, okay,
yeah,
we're gonna colonize these worlds, and the Libertarians like, hey, what? Like
yeah,
you
yeah,
guys are supposed to be here. I was actually one mission that struck me, right? When you had to, it was on one, and he had like 3 bombs, and it was a terrorist or whatever. You had a
yeah. The
choice to
bring
let,
down the sky mission. Yeah,
yeah,
that's the DLC for one.
yeah. So, I actually never played that actually. So
Me
that was
either. I
that
didn't
was
either.
pretty new for
That was
me.
cool.
Um, so yeah, he actually mentions like you guys coming over, you take all our home worlds or take some of our home worlds. The council pushes us out, and you expect us to be nice to you. What the fuck is your
Yeah,
problem? And
yeah,
I was like, oh shit, that adds a lot of context to the Batarians. I actually
yeah.
didn't know that. I mean, even though the codex entries say that, it's like it's different hearing it from a terrorist mouth. Like, this is why I'm mad. Like, you think you have some kind of authority over me or whatever.
Yeah,
And then
you guys push my race back like hundreds of years in terms of our expansion. Because why? Because you wanted to, and like, we're supposed to be okay with that, you know?
yeah,
And I mean, obviously he's doing a horrible thing. He's trying to basically destroy a planet and kill everyone on it, you know, which is
exactly.
a
Yeah.
heinous act. And, you know, Shepard obviously points that out, and that's, you know, the point of the mission. That's how the mission concludes. But the guy, though, like, his point though ultimately is like when you start bringing up how horrible what he's doing is, it's like, why are you taking it out on these innocent people? And he's like, what else am I supposed to do?
Yeah, he
Like,
does. He literally does say that. Like, what else?
he literally says, like, what other choice do I have? You guys don't listen to us no matter what we do, so I need to do something this horrible for you to listen to, for you to even pay attention to us. That's
Exactly.
where we're at. Like, you know, so I don't like,
I just
yeah,
don't
the
agree with the
characterization of
game.
them is,
Yeah,
I don't think it's that bad.
Yeah, I don't think the game. And then even when you're on Omega, you meet other Batarians who are just like, yo, I'm just trying to live. Like, I don't even really care
Yeah.
about the terrorist shit. I don't care about being on the console. I'm just trying to live. Like, and that's you meet that, and then even in 3, I think 3 even explains it further. Where you had the choice. Was it 3?
Yeah.
Or was it 2?
I think you can actually get the Batarians to join you in 3.
Okay. You have the choice to destroy them, pretty much. Like, wipe the Batarians out. But you don't. Or you can, or you don't. And if you do, you see the consequences of that. And there are actually people in your team who are like, bro, this is an entire race of people. Like, I don't think we should just, yeah, they fucking, they're assholes, but are we really just going to let the fucking Reapers destroy them all? Like, we're not going to warn them at all about this shit. So it's like, you have that choice to do that. And it's like, it gives you that choice of like, it's your choice though. Like, you play the game and you feel how you feel. Now, obviously, this author feels like, hey, this game is saying the Batarians are bad. They have no reason to live. They're lesser people. Whereas with me and you, we're like, oh, this is like a really nuanced discussion. Like, are they bad people, or are they just pushed to a corner where they have to lash out?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, this is my problem with the author too, is that they probably played through the game one specific way, Paragon or Renegade, and that's painting their like view of the game. Like, they're talking about this like everyone's experiencing the same game too. Like, the whole game is about agency, like player agency. You get to choose what Shepard does. If you want Shepard to be an authoritarian asshole, you can. That's the Renegade path.
Yeah,
exactly. If you want him to be the upstanding cop, Paragon, you can do that too. That's the Paragon route. Like, that's the game, bro. Like, that's my issue with this article, is that it paints the game like no one has any choice in this matter. Like, the game is just monolithically deciding what we all experience with the game. And that's not fucking true at all. Like, it's not even remotely true. And this is my issue with this article in general. Like, dude, this is where games media is starting to I mean, they've been like this for years, but people like this guy is trying to make a political statement. That is literally his whole point with this article. He doesn't give a shit about Mass Effect. I don't even think he cares about Mass Effect. Like, I think he's trying to use Mass Effect as a point to get his political point across about, cops in general. And I just don't think this is the appropriate arena to be having this discussion, because this is a series of games from 2008 to 2012. That was a long time ago. Okay. We were different. We were a different society at that point in time. Of course, this game presents certain things in a better light than we would now. Like, things have happened, I don't think Mass Effect would be made the same way now than it was back in 2008.
Well, we actually see that. I think Andromeda is a very clear example of that.
Absolutely. That's a great example. Yeah.
This is what happens when everyone on the team has the same mindset. I like getting on teams where there are different mindsets. I tell everybody I am left, but I will get on a team with somebody who's like right, and I'll pick their brain and understand. I want to understand why they come from where they come from, why they do what they do, and things of that nature. And I hope that they'll give me the same respect as well. But I feel like Mass Effect 1 through 3 really had a mixed team as far as writers. They really thought about different avenues and
political spectrums and things like that.
Exactly. And I feel like they really went the Star Trek route, because Star Trek does that shit. Star Trek is like very neutral as far as like, the Romulans and the Federation and the Klingons and everybody, right? The only main enemy they have is the Borg. Like, that's it, right? But I feel like this game does the same thing. That's where Andromeda for me failed. Andromeda was a great game as far as gameplay wise, exploration wise. Actually, playing through 1 reminded me so much of Andromeda. Like, I feel like if they remake 1 with Andromeda's engine, holy shit, that would be the perfect game. Like, the writing from 1, and then the engine and the just the overall pace of Andromeda,
the exploration of Andromeda, and
the combat and everything, the exploration, that would be the perfect Mass Effect game. The problem with Andromeda is the writing sucks, and as far as like with these we don't know what the Ket are trying to do, right? We're just like, oh, they're turning other people into Ket. Why are they turning other people into Ket? And then the race that you do meet, they don't really have any political intrigue as well. It's like everyone's on the same path. Your team, no one really fights against you. Everyone's like I don't know. They just have their
these
own
races are like, they have like monolithic like desires and goals, which is completely unrealistic. Like, okay. This is bringing up an interesting cross-section discussion that I've been thinking about a lot. So there's a board game that I backed on Kickstarter called Frosthaven, which is the sequel to Gloomhaven, which is this huge like RPG board game that is super popular right now. And you can probably look this up. There's been articles written about it at this point. The creator, Isaac, released an update last week on Friday that has really put that community into a huge uproar. Because he posted an update about the game that he brought in I don't even know what he called it, some kind of narrative designer who is focused more on, I don't even know how to say this, like they're culturally, like they're trying to be culturally cognizant, where like you're not creating, fictional races that are offensive, I guess is kind of, and Isaac's whole point is that his like, he was looking at the Gloomhaven races and he was really looking at a lot of them, and they didn't have a lot of depth. Most of them were really monolithic in the way they were kind of described, and that they had like one attribute that like really was like their key thing. Like, this race is always stubborn and angry. This race is really like flighty and cowardly. This race is this, and he was saying that he wanted to change a lot of that for Frosthaven because he didn't believe it was good writing, and there was some points in there about, he also doesn't want to offend people, and he doesn't want to inadvertently use his own biases from real life to create these races, and he believes that kind of sunk into his design of these races from a narrative perspective. And I'm going to be honest, like looking at Gloomhaven, I actually see what he's talking about. I think he has a real like coherent point there with what he's saying. People got really upset about this because, it's like, oh, woke bullshit, blah, 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 blah. The fucking discussion.
Yeah.
People can't handle wokeness. And to be honest, sometimes I can't either. It is annoying. But when it makes sense though, there's a real point to doing it. And I appreciate what Isaac was saying. So I've been thinking about it with Mass Effect though, as I've been playing it, because I started playing it like after reading that article from him on Saturday, and I was really looking at the Mass Effect races through that lens. Like, are they monolithic in that way? Like, are there any, like, are they based in any human stereotypes in that way? Like, are they, like, do they have attributes of certain races from humanity that you could really pick out? And to be honest, playing through the game, I have to say, I actually think BioWare did a really good job with this, that these races are really well fleshed out for the most part. Like, you can tell there are factions within each race that they don't all agree with each other. They're not they don't all have one unified body that they're all on board with, you know? Like, they have a government that's centralized, but when you talk to individuals though, they're not necessarily on board with everything happening within their own race, you know? There are different factions within, like we were talking about the Batarians, right? There's some Batarians that are terrorists. There's some Batarians though that probably just want to live their lives, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
And the same thing happens. You start seeing that with the Asari and stuff too, where like some of them, Liara kind of goes into the Asari kind of stuff a lot, where like there's a stereotype around them that they're really promiscuous as a race. Yep. And she dispels that. Like, she's like, that's not true at all. We're just perceived that way because we look a certain way, you know? But when you actually like get into the games, like deeper into all three games, there are Asari that are promiscuous. Like, some of them are like literally strippers at clubs, but then there are others who are literally researchers. Then you have commandos. You have some that are like, there's like Samara from the second game, who's a Justicar, who's like this certain specific type of Asari that like really adheres to a specific form of justice and things. Like, there's really deep lore within these races. They're not all the same. Like, not every individual you meet from each race acts the same way, you know? And that's kind of what Isaac, I think, was getting at. And I think Mass Effect actually is a good example of what he was talking about. Good race design in a fictional universe.
Yeah, because like you meet Rex or whatever, and then he tells you like, when was the last time you met a scientist, Krogan or whatever.
Yeah,
and I remember in 2, where you meet a Krogan who's actually reciting poetry to the woman he loves. One of
the party members you get is a scientist Krogan. Like,
oh yeah,
I think the Krogan you get in Mass Effect 2 is a scientist. So it's like, it's really funny, because it's like ironic that he's saying that in Mass Effect 1, and then in Mass Effect 2, yeah, you do meet a Krogan scientist. And even in Mass Effect 1 too, there is a Krogan scientist who develops a cure for the genophage. You don't actually talk to that individual, but they're there, like they exist. They're an NPC that you end up fighting.
Yeah.
So even then, there's and like Rex himself is kind of an anti-Krogan, like, because he wants to unify the race, and his entire race doesn't really give a shit about that. And you would think, like, okay, that framing of the Krogan is kind of what Isaac's talking about, where it's really like monolithic, but Rex is an example of it not being that way, you know? Like, he doesn't feel that way. Like, he doesn't he wants to save the Krogan,
and
you know?
Women in 3, and they're obviously like, we don't want this either. So it's like, I just think it's really a nuance as far as the races and things of that nature. And I think this author really didn't put his head down and learn these races or play through it multiple times. You don't even have to play through it multiple times. You can talk to other people who did different playthroughs and
see what they think.
They think, exactly. And I don't think he did that. I just think he rushed to the game and then was like, "Oh, I'm about to get some clicks on this shit," and he just wrote it out. And
that's kind of how it feels. Yeah.
I don't like it because actually the show he's comparing it to or talking about is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I actually like that show a lot too. But I understand the copaganda in that show, but I think comparing it to fucking Mass Effect is a huge reach.
Well, that show's literally about a police station. Exactly. Like, literally. I mean, like, what else is going to happen in a show like that, you know? Like, anything they do where they put the cops in a positive light is going to be copaganda. Like,
I
they're almost between a rock and a hard place there, you know?
I can see Mass Effect being military propaganda, but even then, it's like, it questions the military. It questions, like, you as a soldier, what you need to do.
Dude, there's a point, like, the second game, you're not even part of the military
anymore.
You literally join a terrorist organization, and the whole game is like trying to you have to justify that to everybody. Like, I don't like I don't like how do you even spin that as being military propaganda? Like you leave the military apparatus because they're not capable of doing everything you I mean I don't know.
Yeah, you see the other side of that. Like you see the other
Yeah,
side
right.
of why you
Yeah.
of the military, and you see the flaws. You're just like, this is a flaw. And
Mhm.
then even when you're in the military, again in 3, they're still stupid, and you're like, the only reason they come to you is because the Reapers attack. And it's like, oh, now the Reapers, and then you still have to go to the other military races and be like, yo, the council's like, you're like, am I a Spectre still? And they're like, yeah, you're a Spectre again. And you're like, okay, can we get help? And you're like, we're kind of iffy on you still.
I mean, you got to do some stuff for us.
Yeah,
first,
yeah.
You know?
I
Maybe
mean,
we'll give you our ships.
I
Like
mean-
it's like what are you talking about, bro? Like Earth got destroyed. Like what?
So it's just so weird. This
Yeah.
article, this was one of the most readers articles I've ever read, actually.
Yeah.
It's almost as bad as like when Fox News did that whole report on like the gay marriage thing or the gay scene in Mass Effect. First, they're like, oh my god, you can be gay in Mass Effect. Oh my god, and this was like early 2012. So I mean, that was a different time, y'all.
What a joke those people are.
Such a fucking uproar about that. And I remember my grandma watching that or watching Fox News.
Oh no.
And she was like, Montrell, you hear about this gay? You can be gay. And I'm like, yeah, grandma, I hear about this. She's like, I don't know.
That's really cool, grandma.
Yeah. She's like, I don't know what this world is coming to. And I'm like, yep, I don't know either. As I go back in the room and play fucking
Oh no! As you're doing the like scene, you're like a femme shep, like oh my god, man, that's funny as hell.
So I think and that's why actually I did not like Mass Effect Andromeda. They just didn't push the envelope. And not saying you have to push the envelope. They just played it. I really want you to play Andromeda, and I'm
gonna do it after this. I'm committed. After I beat the trilogy, I'm jumping into Andromeda. I'm now that I'm actually into this and I'm like really playing these games again. I'm gonna do it, man, because I do want to experience that game and talk about it with you. But because this article though is like kind of epitomizes some issues we have in the industry right now with the media. That
this is the reason
they're really intent. Sorry, say that again.
This is the reason we started the podcast because we read.
Yeah, it's like they're really intent on pushing these kind of narratives, dude, into their articles and just in the way they cover games. And I'm not the person. I don't believe we shouldn't talk about politics when with games. Like I don't have a problem with people putting politics in their games as a message or anything like that. It's just the issue comes when that is your goal. Like. This article has no other purpose than to talk about the police and like the negatives of the police. Yeah. And it frames an entire video game series around that idea, when it's not really true, and it's just not, it's not an effective discussion point for me with this game or this series to talk about it in this light, because I just don't like you said at the beginning, this is a severe stretch. Most of this article to me.
Yeah, I feel like it would turn a lot of people. If that article got really popular,
yeah,
it could have turned a lot of people off Mass Effect, or it could warp people's mindsets to where they're like, "Oh, yeah, I actually do." Like I've read comments and people like, "Yeah, I actually agree with this." Like I didn't realize that. Mm-hmm. How? What, bro? Did we play the same game? I'm like,
I don't.
It was mind blowing how people were just agreeing with this, and they're like, "Yeah, I can see the copaganda," and I'm like, "Did we play the same?"
Well, there's not like nuance to the discussion either. There's a lot of just argument happening where it's like one side believes they're right and the other side also believes they're right. And it's like, to me, like we're having a nuanced discussion about this on the show right now, right? Like we can't do that on Twitter. So it's like wading into this and trying to discuss this with people and like, make these points. Like it's going to be completely ineffective. And this is my issue with discourse at the moment too, with this is like, we can't even challenge. Like if we challenge this guy, like say we were popular and we like challenge this dude, we would get labeled a certain way. Like we would be labeled, we would probably be thrown in with the right because of the way we feel about this, and like that's not where we stand though. Like you're liberal, I'm socially liberal with other, like I'm not liberal all the way with everything I believe, but like, it's like, but it doesn't, like that's the thing. I don't talk about politics in a monolithic way though. Like I take everything case by case in the way I kind of approach my beliefs,
Yeah, I mean,
with
we
these things.
have discussions all the time at our old jobs, and it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I mean,
I'm
I
just
don't.
trying to be reasonable though. That's my issue with this too, is like this guy talks about this so authoritatively, and unfortunately it's almost, I feel embarrassed for him in some ways, because like you said, the question you asked, did we play the same game? I don't think he paid attention to a lot of things. He's taking things out, he's cherry picking pieces of the game and taking them out of context and ignoring other pieces of the game to make his argument,
Yeah,
like, and we brought up a lot of those moments in the game, in this discussion. So it's frustrating. I'm really frustrated that these people are the ones that have platforms, because I just think like this reads like a propaganda piece to me. Like he's talking about copaganda, but his article is almost like propaganda the way it is written and reads.
yeah,
So
and I got tweeted like I feel like, and I said it and I say it again. I really hope that Mass Effect 4's writing is more nuanced.
balanced.
Yeah, balanced,
Yeah.
and nuanced, like these first 3 games were,
Hmm.
because Andromeda was just super progressive. It didn't have any kind of it wasn't progressive in a good way. It was just like the standard progressive that we see
It was
online.
trying to shove it in your face everywhere it could, and
Yeah,
that was to the detriment of the game.
yeah, and it
Like,
it was just really weak writing. I just can't really explain it, because
yeah.
like if I think about it, like I'm like, that really wasn't progressive. But it was just like okay, this is a perfect. They just played it safe. That's the word I'm looking for. They played it
Mm,
too safe. Nothing pushed the
mhm,
envelope. There wasn't any Ashleys. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
There wasn't
mhm.
any. There were a lot of Cadens. That's there you go. There were a
Yeah,
lot of Cadens. There
yeah.
were no Ashleys. There were no
Yes, he
Garruses.
does.
There were no Rexes. Right? There were just none of that. Uh, and everyone was just like, oh, we're trying to find our own path and everything. And I understand that, but it's just like, I don't
Not
know.
everyone's like that though.
Yeah,
Like if
exactly.
you're trying to make a game with a believable world that is immersive, which is the point of making a game like Mass Effect, you have to be able to be balanced. Like you cannot. I I don't like. I mean, you can do whatever you want. You can make whatever world you want. That's. I mean, fortunately, that's the world we live in. You get to do whatever you want when you're making something. However, that doesn't mean people are going to think it's good. Like like the reception of these things is going to vary wildly based on your approach in that regard. So we'll see. I mean, Mass Effect 4 or whatever they're calling it, Mass Effect 5, I don't even know. They're probably going to call it Mass Effect 4, because they don't want to acknowledge Andromeda ever existed. But uh, that game is probably going to have much more of an approach that the first 3 games had, because it's being made by Edmonton, the primary studio of BioWare's. Obviously, I know the team is much different than it used to be, but there are some people that still work there that worked there back when they made the Mass Effect games. So I imagine there will be a little bit more balance in that regard. So I'm not as worried about that. But I don't know. It's an interesting study. I think Mass Effect is a really great series to have this whole conversation around, because there's examples of it doing this very well, and there's examples of it not doing it very well.
Yeah.
And I think that can be kind of a lesson in general. So, Montreal, is there anything else you want to say before we move on?
Nope. If you can, tweet out to Mac Walters Live. That's his @handle. Mac Walter Live, or Lives rather. Matt Walter Lives. And tell them that you guys want the Mass Effect multiplayer in the game. They said they'll put it in if they get enough support.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Fuck yeah. I wouldn't mind trying that out. Okay, let's move on. We got a few news stories, not a ton of stuff, but it has been announced that Amy Hennig is going to, we already knew this. She actually was given a studio, but it's been announced that they are officially making an action adventure game, and they are looking for talent to kind of ramp up and make this game. It is going to be a game made in Unreal Engine, and this studio is called Skydance Studios. I think it's called Skydance Game Studios or something like that officially. So, Montreal, this is obviously the creator, well, not creator, but one of the key hands in the Uncharted games. She was also the person that went to Visceral and was making the Star Wars game that was canceled by EA a few years back. And she's kind of been silent for a while since Visceral kind of closed, but here she is popping back up. Does it excite you that she's working on an action adventure game? Are you into her style of game?
Uh, I'm excited to see a new IP. I mean, I have confidence in her writing because I mean, I guess
Yep.
Uncharted was a good game as far as like the way it was written. It was meant to be an action movie game, and it played like that, and I actually respected it for just playing to itself. So yeah, I mean, I would like her to still do a Star Wars game to see what she can do with that. But I'm glad that she's actually making her own stuff.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, obviously, this is really early. I imagine we're not going to see this game for a few years. Probably come out, but at the same time, though, I'm glad to see her back in the game because she makes good. She as a creative director has kind of created very good games. Like I don't think the Uncharted games are the best games ever made. I think I think there's a lot of people who blow smoke up those games asses. But they're still really good games ultimately, and she does have a air of quality about her work in the past. So, I got decent expectations for this, but we'll see what comes of it. All right, let's move on. Final Fantasy 14, which is a extremely popular MMO, still to this day extremely popular MMO. Square Enix has announced and released a trailer for the next expansion, Final Fantasy 14 Endwalker. The game was already announced actually a few months ago, but we are getting the release date, which is going to be on November 19th this year, 2021. And there's going to be a new class called the Reaper. Montrell, are you jumping back into Final Fantasy 14?
No. The reason I said no is because if I do, I need a full squad of people. I need at least 4 people to jump in with me.
We need it, yeah.
And we need to,
everybody.
Yeah, we need to lose our lives with each other, and that's what we're gonna do. Like, if we jump into this game and we play it, I'm gonna lose my life for at least 3 months. That's that's gonna be.
Well, so this is what I'll tell you. Okay, so my brother and I are playing Neo 2 right now. We're nearing the end of our journey with that. I don't know how much longer we're gonna be playing it. And we've been talking about like what we want to play next, and we both mentioned Final Fantasy 14 when this announcement came earlier in the week, and he wants to jump back into it, and he was like, man, maybe when we're done with Neo, I might, so I'm not. I don't know. I always say this to myself all the time that I want to go back to this game always, and I never fucking do it. I never do it. I never do it because I know the time commitment required with it, and I'm just not willing to do it necessarily. But I will say, I don't
It is
know.
more
It's been a
modernized
while.
for our lives, though. I will
And
say that
it's been a while too, man. So
it is more modernized for people like us who don't have time like we did back in college, like when we played WoW and shit like that. So I will respect it as far as that. There are a lot of people playing it. It's really super easy to get into. We don't have to like go to fucking guides and shit like that. Like we just jump into it and play it. I will say it from that perspective. So I do respect it from that. But then it's like other games I want to play. Like I actually do want to play Burning Crusade again.
Fuck, I know. And then we got new Genesis coming out too.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
In the next month, bro. Like we got 3 different MMOs we're thinking about playing. Like, what are we doing with ourselves? This is 2021, Montreal. We're not supposed to do this, What are we, degenerates? This isn't 2006.
Yeah, you tell my 2006 this shit, I'll probably fucking lose myself.
I'd be losing your mind, right? Like, oh my fucking god, yeah, dude. Oh shit, it's like, yeah, because I remember that period of time, dude. That was like the time period when I played like Ion, Lord of the Rings Online, Age of Conan. I was an MMO junkie at that point. Like
I was trying all different types of MMOs at that time.
Man.
I was so into this game. So this is why I wanted to have a party though that's like personal to me. So I was so into this game. I had a party of 4. We were all doing dungeons and stuff like that. And we were in the middle of a dungeon. And my girlfriend at the time called me and was like, hey, I'm kind of stranded out here after this concert, and me and my friend don't have a ride. And I'm like, fuck. I'm in the middle of a dungeon, and she played video games, stuff like that. So she's like, "Oh, you're like you're in the middle of a dungeon or whatever." I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Okay, don't worry about
Yeah.
it. I'll find another ride." I was like, "No." It's like, "I'll come pick you up." I was like, "Guys, could we just sit here? Don't go into the final boss right now, and I'll be back." Because I was a tank. And it was like, "Okay, cool." It was like 6. It was like 10 of us actually, and they
Yeah.
actually waited for me. Like, I mean, because they know me personally. They actually
Oh, that's
waited for
awesome.
me, and I
Yeah.
picked her up, and then I dropped her off.
See, look at you. See, you had your priorities straight, Montreal. I thought that story was going to go in a different direction.
Well, like I left her.
Yeah, you just did the boss and left her.
No,
Oh
I
man.
actually had to stop, but I
Mhm.
don't know. Ever since then, I held something personal for me with Final Fantasy
Mhm.
14 that I didn't have when I played WoW, and that was like personal people I played with. So it was like it was
Well,
hard.
I mean, there's a group of people that that we both follow that play this game still. So, I mean, to be honest, like we could probably jump in with some of them too
That's
if we wanted
that's
to,
true.
but
Yeah.
I don't know what server they're on. I have existing characters too, or I
You
have
can
an
transfer
existing
now. You can
character.
transfer your character.
Yeah, so I could probably transfer my character to whatever server people are on. I have a lot of friends too that want to play this game too. That like that people like you don't know too that like are interested in playing this game. It's just like we've never pulled the trigger on it, you know. So it's like if we can get all of them together, it's like I don't know, we might have a decent group of people to play with. So
Yeah.
um also, I made a mistake. It's actually coming out on November 23rd. If you pre-order the expansion, you'll be able to play 4 days earlier on the 19th of
Okay.
November.
Cool.
So, and there's actually 2 classes coming out. The Reaper class, which is a DPS class, and then the Sage class, which is going to be a healer. So, so yeah, I mean, if you're interested in that, check that out in the coming months. All right. That is it for news. Montreal, let's get into our listener questions to wrap up here for the day. We've got 3 questions again this week. Dat dude doing the heavy lifting once again with 2 of them. His first question, this is a loaded question too. I don't know how deep we want to go on this one, but what are your thoughts on games possibly becoming all
Oh,
digital?
we already did all of this. We talked about this in our earlier podcast, but
Yeah.
I'll just
Yeah.
simplify it because we actually had an entire reflections episode about this, right?
Yes, we did.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
yes, we did. I don't remember the exact time frame.
I'm
It was
actually
probably
you know
a
what?
year,
You
year
can
and a
talk.
half ago.
I'm gonna look it up. You can talk though.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, we have covered this before. We've covered this extensively, actually. That dude, I know you're a kind of a newer listener. So, if you ever go back through the backlog, Montreal and I have had a lot of discussions about this topic because, you know, a lot of people are all for the all digital future, and me and Montreal have always been a little bit more reticent. And I will say more recently with these new consoles, some of these things have become clear that this is not the all encompassing positive thing that everybody always thought it was with digital games, especially with the backwards compatibility stuff and in particular some of the shit with the PS5 with the weirdness going on with digital versions of games where you think you're playing the PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5 version, but you're actually playing the PS4 version. You need to like fucking convert it over and then download it again and do all this weird shit. So I will say I think all digital is an inevitable future for the industry, but I'm not looking forward to it, I guess, is because when we go all digital, we're putting everything in the hands of Sony and these publishers. And I think it is clear at this point in time, you know, after years and years and decades of this, that these people cannot be trusted to have our best interest in mind. Like they just don't. They're gonna
Yeah.
do whatever is in their own best interest. So
All right, I did find it, that dude. So if you want to, you can go back to August 23rd of 2019, and it is August 23rd of 2019 is right after episode 30. It's Reflections 4, and it's called The Downsides of Digital. We only talk about an hour for about an hour. What are the downsides? Because I think my thoughts are with Justin. I think this generation basically reflected what's going to happen, and when you have an all digital future, you can't even transfer your games over. Like if you have a physical game, like if you have the all digital PS5, you can't play your old PS4 games if they're physical, right? So
yeah,
that's that's a reason why a lot of people aren't getting the digital consoles. They stay actually online a little bit longer than the physical ones do. Um, I think
Well, that's a good point because when like think about this. Let's say this is the last generation we have physical games or whatever that cutoff is, PS6, PS7, PS8, whatever the fuck it is. Whatever that cutoff is, when that happens, the backwards compatibility is only going to work for digital games.
Yep.
So your physical games you're going to be totally fucked if your library is physical. So
exactly. On the upside of that, though, there will never be a reseller demand for digital games. We will not have to deal with, we won't have to deal with resellers. So I feel like that's the more positive thing because I was thinking about that. I'm like, man, what if like Resident Evil 8 came out and then all the fucking resellers just bought Resident Evil 8 and tried to upsell it? They can't do that because people just say, okay, fuck you, I'm gonna go buy it digitally. So that's the only upside I can really see to it.
Well, this is a convenience preloading.
Yeah, it's a convenience. You can preload it.
You don't have to ship it.
And if it's like a little small game, you don't have to really go out and buy it or anything like that. Because I do buy smaller games or games that I really don't, consider like a top tier collector's item. I will buy those digitally. Like I'll just buy it and play it or whatever. So I mean that's the upside of that, but as far as like the problem is if they want to take a game off the market, they can, and then they can snatch the license from you. I think we saw that with Scott Pilgrim versus the World. They snatched that license, and I think they actually stopped people from playing that game too, if I recall.
Yeah, it's not a common thing, but they have the power to do that.
Yep.
Like we don't own the games. We're licensees of the games in the digital format. So if they decide they don't want us to play the games, they can.
And
which I mean, admittedly, they can do that with physical.
I was going to say they can do that with physical too, but it would be less hard for, in my opinion, just morally to justify that from a business.
But think about. But the thing is, though, what they can't do with the physical ones is, if you take your console offline and put the disc in and like wipe the game and install it clean, they can't stop you from playing that.
Oh yeah, true. Yep.
Even though it's unpatched, you'll still be able to play.
Yep, and I think Nintendo games are a prime example of that because I can just plug, a cartridge in and play it. I don't have to download it from the store. I don't have to download. I mean, I can download patches, but the game is on my cartridge. So, I think as far as that, Nintendo's winning. As far as I'm glad they're actually really behind on their digital storefront. If that makes any sense.
Okay, cool. So yeah, if you want to hear more about that, we do have an episode dedicated specifically to that topic. Next question. What are 3 video game series you would like to see as an anime/cartoon series, Montrell?
None. I'm sorry, that dude. None. Every anime video game or every video game that I've seen turn into an anime sucks.
What about Castlevania, dude?
Okay, I guess.
I mean, everybody's super hype on that one.
It's like a 7 out of 10. So that's one exception to the rule. I think my greatest one is like Devil May Cry. I saw that turn into an anime, and I was just like, "What the fuck is this shit?" Like I remember going back and watching it. I remember when it came out, a lot of people were hyped for it, and I watched it again recently. I'm like, "This is actually terrible." Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Another one is Dota. Well, that's not an anime, I guess. They just actually released Dota, so I have to watch it.
More of a cartoon.
More of a 3D animation cartoon.
Okay.
And they're coming out with the League of Legends one on Netflix as well. I'm gonna check that out. I actually for games like that have a lot of lore, I wouldn't mind that. But like a straight up video game, like I think that only can work for like lore games, like if like a Dota or a League of Legends.
Yeah.
Well,
I have 3 actually.
Okay.
I do have 3. I just thought of them as you were talking. So, the first one was the first one that came to mind. And this one, I don't know why I keep defaulting to this every time we get asked these questions, and I don't want to give Square Enix ideas because frankly, they've done this with Final Fantasy before and it hasn't worked out well. But Kingdom Hearts, I mean, it literally is an anime as a video game, but an actual anime, I mean, I think it could work, Like
they would have to get some really good animation. They can't,
they would.
They can't get us a trash team. If they give that to a trash team, then it wouldn't work.
The problem with that is like they'd have to get license from
Disney
Yeah.
to really do that.
Yep.
Or they'd either have to do that, or they'd have to make a completely Kingdom Hearts original stuff with like original characters and stuff that Disney doesn't own, which I don't know if that would play well. So that's a complicated one that I don't think is realistic. But if everything was perfect, let's just say everything was perfect, because this is the question doesn't specify. I can do whatever I want here. In a perfect world, I think a Kingdom Hearts anime could be really cool.
You know what?
A second one.
Oh,
Yeah, go
no,
ahead.
No, you can keep going. I did. I'll do after you.
No, go ahead,
No, no,
Montreal.
no.
I want to hear your opinion.
Well, I was gonna say I think Monster Hunter will make a good anime.
Oh my god, you motherfucker! That's literally what I was gonna mention. God damn it, you son of a bitch! You just took it, man. I should have just gone, man. I thought you were gonna say something about Kingdom Hearts. This motherfucker. No, King. So I agree with you. That was the next one I was gonna say. It was Monster Hunter. I think would be a actually really cool candidate for this, because it's a good place for them to expand lore without bogging the games down, or what they would perceive to be bogging the games down.
Yeah, and I think they can be. So the reason I thought about that is because I thought about another anime game turned anime was God Eater, and God Eater the game, right? It still has a sense of urgency to it. It's kind of, I don't think it's as mature. It's like maybe like a teen, teen mature, like rated T for teen mature. But the fucking anime,
rated T for teen.
That shit is rated fucking M. Like, people are getting their heads chopped off. Like, monsters are fucking. The world of God Eater in the anime is very fucking violent, and like these monsters are terrifying. Like, and I was thinking about it, I'm like, that could be actually a really good Monster Hunter. Like, Monster Hunter is always presented, even on the game, in my opinion, it's like happy-go-lucky. We're hunting these monsters. Go, everybody!
Yeah, the monsters are almost like goofy sometimes. Like,
and it's like, no, let's have the anime come out and let's almost have it like as violent as Berserk, right? Like, just fucking visceral, dark. Like, you go on a hunt.
Monsters are just ripping people to shreds.
Yeah, like you go on a hunt, and like these are why we need hunters. Like, because the village that we got attacked by fucking Velociprey, and they just fucking tore people apart.
Yeah, you remember? Do you remember the anime like Claymore?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking like that kind of violent.
Yeah,
exactly.
Where
it's like almost like jarringly so, where you don't expect it to happen, but then it does. And it's really fucking gory.
Yeah.
Like,
or like
I think that could be cool.
I even think like Attack on Titan violent, right? Like, it can have a really good narrative and stuff like that, and characters can be powerful. But you got these new newbie hunters come out here and like, he didn't make it because he's a fucking newbie.
There's a shonen anime in there for Monster Hunter. I could see it.
Yeah. But I think it should just be a really visceral, mature anime. And that can be for the mature audience, because I feel like they make Monster Hunter for like the kids, because they want to get as many people as they want to, right? But if you make a Monster Hunter anime, put that shit on like Netflix and like have adults watch it, they're like, what the fuck is this game? They even have a bigger audience, like, yo, because I think about another anime. I haven't watched it, but I think it's on the same bridge point, which is what is that? What's that game called? Oh my god, what's the other game that Capcom made? It's the medieval game. Fuck, I can't think of it. It's on my tongue, and I can't think of it.
Medieval game.
Yeah.
What console is it on?
It's on all 3 consoles.
Oh, it's
Dragon's Dogma.
Game?
Dragon's Dogma.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was thinking about that, and I think the anime is kind of visceral and violent. And I was thinking they can do that with Monster Hunter. So I do have one game, which is Monster Hunter. There you go.
Yeah, they could do that. Frankly, Capcom, I mean, they made that movie that I've seen clips of, and it's not, I don't understand why they made that movie. But the point being, though, is if you're going to make that movie, I mean, fuck it. Why not make an anime, dude? It's like, I don't feel like it would be that hard to pitch that. Then the third one I had in mind was this one, Montreal would never pick, would be is actually Warcraft. Warcraft has extremely deep lore if you read into it. Especially going back to Warcraft 1, 2, and 3. If you read a lot of that lore, it's really well written and deep stuff. that world's really well thought out up to that point. When you get into World of Warcraft, it gets completely stupid and ridiculous, and I hate it. But I think anime though set within those time periods would be actually could be really fucking cool if you did it right. So
Okay.
more also I'm thinking more visceral and violent as well on that front too, because I mean this is Warcraft, like that's a violent universe anyways.
Yeah.
So there could be some cool stories to tell there.
That's another
They haven't
thing.
told
Another
before.
franchise that's like it's visceral and violent. You can tell, but they are like, oh, we're all fancy dory.
Yeah, right. World of Warcraft made it this goofy, happy,
Yeah.
just like, yeah, yay, we're raiding Blackwing Lair and we defeated Nefarian and we got his armor. Woo! It's like, dude, oh no, Kill Jaden's coming to blow up Azeroth and let's send 40 adventurers at him and
I think about like
that
Monster
solves
Hunter.
all our problems.
Yeah, I think about Monster Hunter and WoW, and like they have certain levels and certain lords and side levels or monsters or whatever who are just fucking horrendous. Like the Fatalist obviously wears the fucking hunter's armor or the skin of the hunter that he kills, and like that's in lore of Monster Hunter, but you never see that in the game. But that's like official lore.
Yeah. Right.
And then like
yeah, and like Kill Jaden in World of Warcraft is like literally a conqueror of worlds. Like he like the Burning Legion is a galactic entity that like conquers worlds. Like that's what they do in the Warcraft lore.
yeah,
And like this like medieval fantasy world is the one world he can't conquer. Oh god, like we can't do it. Like, all these darn adventurers, they keep getting us, damn it, man. It's like I don't know. And like, dude, like Shadow, what the fuck is the newest expansion called? I don't even know.
Shadowlands?
Shadowbringers? I don't remember.
No,
not
Shadowbringers.
Shadowbringers.
Shadowbringers is Final
That's
Fantasy 14.
that's that's Final Fantasy 14. I can't even remember. I can't even keep these games straight anymore. It's Shadow something. Shadowlands, that's what it is. Fucking that expansion is so dumb, man. Like when I was playing it, like you're in this dimension where souls go after they die, and you're fighting against this evil prisoner, like jailer dude, who is trying to take over the Shadowlands and run everything, and it's like what is this? This isn't Warcraft. Why aren't we on Azeroth? Like, what are we doing? This shit's gone on too long. Like that's where I'm at with it. So yeah, give me an anime in the first war, the second war, the third war. That's what I want. I think that could be pretty cool. Okay, we have one more question. This is from someone named Free the Wizard. Have y'all spoken about the alleged Marvel game that NetherRealm is making? And the answer is no, but we'll talk about it now. NetherRealm, the fighting game studio owned by WB Games that has made Injustice as well as Mortal Kombat, the more recent Mortal Kombat games. Montrell, I don't have a lot to say about this personally. I'm not a fighting game guy, but what about you?
I am looking forward to them actually making a game. I think they'll do a lot more justice.
Well, do you think this is real?
Yeah. Oh well.
Because I mean, this is kind of a point of contention here. Is that
Ed Boon
this is
teased
WB Games?
Yeah,
this is WB Games, like who owns the studio. So
Ed Boon teased
that would be.
So I don't know if he'll just tease it just to be teasing it.
Mm-hmm.
But let me actually see the tease. Oh my god, fucking thing wants me.
Because I mean, the thing is, like WB Games is owned by Warner Brothers, who owns DC Comics. So obviously they have a deep connection with DC IP. It would be really interesting for Marvel to approach a studio owned by Warner Brothers to make a game. However, this is one of the premier fighting game makers in the industry. So if you're going to have somebody make a fighting game, this would be the studio to do it, even if you are Marvel. I think there is some like realistic reality. There's a reality where this would happen, in my opinion. So I think this is very possible. But
yeah, so the problem is it's very plausible, but it's in clear, I don't want to say violation, but like conflict of interest for WB Games, right? Because like you said, they're
Mhm.
DC and they're actually going in direct fucking competition with Marvel and Disney.
Mm.
Uh, so I'm actually on I'm like 30% yes and 70% no right now. That's how I feel. Um, right now we don't have anybody doing Marvel fighting games. We don't even know if Capcom still has a license to do Marvel fighting games because
Mm.
Capcom
Mhm.
because Marvel versus Capcom Infinite was just abysmally terrible. So
Mm.
we don't even know if Marvel snatched the license from them. And when they did
Mhm.
have the license, they were very restrictive with what characters to use. Um, as far as Marvel side thing goes, which I understand now, because which is hilarious. So I'm just going to say this real quick. So I remember when Marvel vs. Capcom 3 came out and the character
Mhm.
selection that came out, and everyone was wondering why they had this weird character selection. It was like Iron Fist, X-23, um, who else? It was just a lot of characters. And
Daredevil.
yeah, but Daredevil unfortunately wasn't
No,
in there.
no,
But that would have
he
been
wasn't in
he
there.
wasn't in
No,
there.
but you pick Iron Fist and you don't even pick Daredevil? Like, what?
Yeah, so it was
That is
weird
weird.
that these characters are coming in, and then like we get an Iron Fist thing, and Taskmaster was in there, and now we got Taskmaster on
The fuck?
yeah, we have a Taskmaster on Black Widow and stuff like that. So people know who
All they could
Taskmaster.
get was like the B tier characters and
I mean, they
villains.
still had Spider Man, Captain America,
Okay.
Wolverine, and all
Okay.
and Storm. Or
Yeah.
they didn't. No, they didn't have Storm. They had or did they have Storm? They did have Storm. They had Storm. They had Magneto and everybody like that. But they just added some other characters to the roster that other people didn't want because a lot of people wanted Gambit and everything like that nature. But yeah, I just thought that
Mhm.
was pretty funny. And then obviously with Marvel Infinite, like they had Black Panther on there who took the place of like Wolverine, and it was a really
Oh
yeah,
shit. Yeah.
it was a really shitty game. So
Mhm.
I'm I have been seeing that Marvel has been dishing out licenses to other people to make games.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but NetherRealm Studios is owned by Warner Brothers. Maybe Warner Brothers is taking the Xbox route, right? And they're like, hey, you can play some of our games on your console on our console. So
I mean, I don't see why they would say no to this. Like I think this could benefit everybody. I mean, I know there's a I guess technically a conflict of interest here, but like it's not like WB's directly involved in NetherRealm's workings, like NetherRealm's their own entity, they would just have to approve the deal and to be honest, I think a fighting game, Marvel fighting game from them would be pretty fucking awesome. So, I don't know, like Injustice was like crazy cool looking. I'm like I said, I'm not a big fighting game guy, but I've watched people play that game, and it's fucking sick, dude. Like this shit in that game. So I think they could pull it off.
yeah, I mean, I think they could like story wise and everything like that nature. I think because
Hmm.
they tried to do a story mode in Marvel's Capcom Infinite and it was fucking terrible. So I mean, they can definitely pull
Hmm.
something off, even if it is like a Mortal Kombat or sorry, a Marvel versus DC thing, right? They can do that. I can see them pulling a really good story out of that. Or if it's just a Marvel thing, I could see them really doing that. I think what my biggest critique of the game will be is they need to change the fighting engine because, in my opinion, they have a certain style with Injustice and
Mm,
Mortal Kombat that's super similar, and I feel like to
mm,
kind of
hmm.
separate that game from the two, maybe they should try like a different type of fighting style in this game. Um,
Yeah, because I mean, the popular characters you'd have in Marvel are in a Marvel game. They are very high mobility. I'd say a lot of them. And even some of them are a little quirky. Like Storm is not going to fight like Wolverine would. Like there's severe differences there. And like I don't know. I don't know what characters are in the Injustice game, but of the ones I'm thinking of, a lot of them are just kind of punchers and kickers. They're like physical fighters. Like they're not
Yeah, I mean,
necessarily.
there are a lot of characters that are like gods and super fast. Like Flash is one of them who's like super fast. And they
Okay.
kind of,
Yeah.
they display that quickness and there are a lot of nimble characters that they like Black Canary and
Hmm.
like Green Arrow. Those are like nimble characters that are like super fast and stuff like that. I just think um when people are going to be playing a Marvel game, they're going to have Marvel vs. Capcom in their minds. So it's kind of quick to tailor them towards that. It's being a fast paced fighter. Every Marvel game, honestly, has been like a fast paced fighter that I can think of.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I think they should kind of keep that, but do it in their own style, but kind of keep that thing, make it more faster than Injustice and Mortal Kombat.
Mm-hmm.
So, but as far as story wise, like the story mode and like the different modes, I think if they were making this game, they would knock that shit out the park, like no questions asked, unless DC or unless Marvel has too much control and like, no, we don't want you to do this with our characters. We don't want you to do this with our characters. We don't want you to do
Mm.
that.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so
Because that's what I was thinking. Right? Like, would they make it as dark as Injustice was? In terms of the way the characters were, even just aesthetically designed, but also the way the game is, like how violent it can be.
well, and even in
You know,
Justice, right? WB characters like they were like, oh, we don't want you decapitating our characters and stuff like that. So that's why
yeah,
you,
which that's fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's why you see them in. You can see Mortal Kombat characters in Injustice, but you can't see Injustice characters or Mark DC characters in Mortal Kombat. At least
Mhm.
I haven't seen any. I think there's only one character. I think it's Joker. I think that's the only character. I
It
believe.
would defeat the purpose of like his Mortal Kombat. I mean, dude, like, I mean, that's the whole point of the game, right? Is the
Yeah,
fatalities and stuff.
yeah.
Like,
I think
it's
the only
super
character they
violent.
allowed was Joker. But that's pretty much it. I think they can still do a really violent and dark world, but they just can't do like fatalities or something like that, like they do in Injustice. And I can see them doing that with Marvel, or
Mhm.
I can see them just doing a whole separate single player game, like no fighting game.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah,
They can break out
that'd be
their,
interesting.
because they have made adventure games like Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, which is a adventure beat 'em up game, the Sub-Zero game, which is like a
Mhm.
side scrolling beat 'em up game, and they have made other games too, that are not fighting games. I just can't remember some off
Mhm.
my top of my game head, but like Midway, before they were fucking NetherRealm Studios, they were Midway, and they made a lot of racing games and things of that nature. So
Mm.
they made
Mhm.
Blitz. So I mean, this studio
Ooh.
does have,
Yeah.
talent that can do other stuff besides just fighting games. So they can do something like that with Marvel. They can just make a single player Marvel game. Maybe they can make a fucking Punisher game. Like, and they are really good at doing dark stuff. And Punisher will be one of those games. They have the urgency or the the will to do violent, skull crushing stuff, because that's what the Punisher is. Like we saw that in
Mhm.
the comics, we seen that in the TV show, how violent the Punisher
Mhm.
was, and I think that would be right up NetherRealm Studios to kind of continue that tradition with the Punisher.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, if that game gets announced, obviously we'll probably cover it on this show. So we'll see. All right. Well, thank you for the questions, guys. We appreciate that. Montreal, is there anything else you'd like to discuss before we go today?
Nope, that's it for me.
We gave a very meaty show with like 2 news stories, Montreal. This we went really hard on Mass Effect.
Yeah, I'm sorry, y'all. If I want to skip past that, y'all can. But
I mean, it's too late now, man. If they're here, they're here. Hey, if you guys listen to that whole thing, we hope you enjoyed it. That is kind of an old school throwback for us. We don't go that crazy on stuff anymore. In the earlier run of the show, when we first started, me and Montreal would spend like 3 hours talking about one game. Infamous, our Kingdom Hearts 3 review episode. Probably, if this show ever becomes mildly popular, will probably be infamous among the community. Because it's literally a 3-hour show where we just rant about Kingdom Hearts 3. So
it is 3 hours.
um,
Holy shit!
it literally is 3 hours. It was absolutely psychotic, and I personally lost my mind in that show. So if you want to see me, if you want to see me in rare form where I'm completely apoplectic about something, like, that's the episode to listen
Yeah,
to.
for our new listeners,
Um,
it's episode 8, because I got the episode list still up. So that is episode
is
8.
it really episode 8? It was that deep in?
Yeah, man.
Okay, I thought it was earlier than that, but yeah.
Oh, that's pretty early, man. That was our 8th episode.
I know, it was only 2 months in, but we were, yeah, it was
Oh man, yeah, Kingdom Hearts 3. All right. Well, thank you for listening, guys. We hope you liked this episode. If you liked the episode, please review the show, subscribe to the show on whatever feed you're listening to it on, and please share it with your friends. If you'd like to interact with either of us on Twitter, you can do so at iTrap for the Hokage for Montrell. That is the number 4, not the word. I'm at ThunderNut01, and the show is at The Player's Take. If you'd like to send us questions, you can do so on Twitter, or you can send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com. And that is it for us, guys. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will see you next week. Bye.